I've traveled around the country, I've seen the dusty plains, but I'd rather be back home again, avoiding all the rains. Sat around the table with the culture running deep, with a harvest in the jaws and promises to keep. Give me a home out in the bush, please, with lots of more trees, a bong or two, me mate Wildroo and the rest of the crew, with Timmy, Tink and Mark too.
G'day legends and welcome back to the Terpene Table. I'm your host, Wildroo, and as always we've got the crew here with us today. Guys, say g'day to the legends listening.
G'day, guys.
G'day, team.
G'day.
Good to see you here. Nice turnout today.
Yeah. Bless yous.
Yeah, it is. It's good to see some in the live audience. Right, so
Yeah.
today we're going to dive deep in how to grow your indoor cannabis from seed to harvest on the cheap. So we're talking $500 or under. So whether you're just interested, researching for the future, or just hunting for another cheap setup, this one should have you covered. So let's dive into it.
Well, I think we all began at that early base point where we had nothing. This is my story, like old fishing nets and meshing and buckets, just trying to make deep water culture and all that work. And I remember I went down to Bunnings with probably $200 to start out my first setup, and look, I think it's the best place for us to talk about as a general, even like for the veterans to reflect on where we all came from.
Agreed, mate. Yeah, that was we're going to be the first sort of dive in. Was like, what was your first setup? So I think you've just sort of touched base on that, Timmy. Tink, let's touch base with you. What was your first sort of indoor setup?
Oh, definitely that spare cupboard that had the space and some like random lights that I put together and a pot down the bottom and a fan in the corner and let's go.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, same here,
Yep.
Mud.
My first go was outside in a greenhouse, but indoors it was a Spider Farmer tent with a Spider Farmer light and an AC Infinity intake or something like that. I sort of wanted to get something a bit nicer, but don't go Spider Farmer; they'll fuck your order up. And some turbo dirt with some autos, nice and
Oh,
easy.
wow. Oh, you had a
yeah.
good start. Yeah.
Not outdoors. When I
mate.
first started, it was not a good start. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, cool. Well, I think that brings us to our next one, Sen. Well, what's your biggest waste of money, you reckon, as a new grower? What's the biggest pitfall?
Okay. So I'd say shit genetics is probably the biggest one. Like, you're wasting your time if you're just going to not get anything out of it, if it's not got the potential. But overcomplicated, like, watering systems and auto watering systems, at least in my situation with organics, you can get better results with sort of simplified systems.
Yeah, I'd say that even with cocoa. I think
Yeah,
once you're starting out,
definitely.
just start off hand watering and you'll get the feel for it, and then you can think about going into your auto watering system. Yeah.
I think that's a great piece of advice, just in a broad sense of all equipment and kind of starting out, is start at the basics. Like none of us ever started out as plant biologists and scientists and things like that. We all have to start at that base thing. And if you spend $1,700 on a light, which was my first stuff up, was buying a light that was way out of my understanding of how photosynthesis and plants kind of react to that. If you just get your cheapy basic, just even something off Alibaba or Amazon, just to get you going, that has a guaranteed spectrum, rather than dropping all that money into lights like I did immediately.
Yep.
It's definitely
Dropping something into like a tunable light and then going, what the hell am I doing? Yeah.
How does this work?
Yeah.
I had a different experience because I was raising a family. I just didn't have the cash flow at all. So I kind of learnt the hard way with what was worth investing in, So a decent light, the $20 ones, as much as, you think that's all you can afford, it's worth saving $120, and you will grow a decent plant under $120 light, and then you can take care of all the rest type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but you don't have to go out and drop 2K. Like it's not
No,
necessary. Not on your first
no,
light.
not
You know,
really.
wait till you've got enough understanding of
Yeah,
everything and how it works,
yeah.
how things grow. Yeah,
Well, that was the flip side. I got to understand what was needed and what was essential and what was really important in a huge way rather than having to dial it back to understand it. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So, do we want to start and sort of dive through some basic cheap gear and start there, or do we want to recap with that at the end?
Well,
What
I
do we
mean,
reckon,
the
T?
whole premise is, cheap gear and how to get into it. So I say we start with it and then maybe reiterate at the end after we've all had a yarn about it and decided what's important and what's not.
Okay, sounds good. I like it. I like that approach. All right. Well, I gave us all sort of a rough budget of $500 to see what we could come up with.
Mm.
Tink, you said in pre-show that you couldn't quite squeeze into that $500 budget. Mud, how'd you?
So depending how cheap you want to get, if you want a decent setup, I could probably squeeze just about in that, depending on, environmental factors you have to deal with.
Yeah, and what's your take on that there, Timmy?
Well, I reckon it's definitely doable. Like the list that I came up with, it's a $400 kind of list. It's cheap, it's nasty, but it covers all of the basics pretty well. And I think if your end goal is to produce your own like medicine, I think it's the best place to start if you have absolutely no experience. And if you want to invest or have the ability to invest in a little bit more, genetics is where to kind of start with that because you're not going to be able to grow massive in it, but you're going to be able to grow something, and that's definitely the spot I reckon that we can spend that little bit of extra money.
Yeah, agreed. I reckon that's where we're sort of shooting for is just the entry level stuff to get anyone on any budget involved. So yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm going to start with mine. I came up with a total of $495. So, and I pushed things out just a little bit. So I'm going to start with my light that I'm going to recommend here. That's the Viper Spectra XS 1500 Pro. It's a 150 watt light. It's adjustable, and you can pick them up for about $150, sometimes a little bit less on eBay, things like that, with specials, discount codes, and whatever, which are all pretty readily available.
Right there,
I went
folks.
I went with a 70 by 70 by 160 tent. I found them pretty cheap, like Big W, places like that, just searching online. This was $103 for this particular one, just a no-name brand. But, it's good enough to get you started. There's a company online as well called Melbourne Hydro, and they have some really, really cheap stuff. I'm not out to plug anyone in particular, but they're a good place to get, I found, for your inline filters and carbon filters and things like that. So they had a little kit there, 4-inch inline fan, carbon filter, and some ducting for $110.
Ooh, that's all right.
Yeah, so that's enough just to keep your smell under control and something like that if you're only sort of flowering out 1 or 2 plants at a time. Um, a bag of cocoa from Kiss or Professor's Own is the same. It's about 50-litre bag for $30. And then you've only got sort of pots and timers, pH meter, things like that, which you can all pick up pretty cheap on eBay as well. So you're looking at probably under $50 for all of that. And that, in my opinion, is more than enough to get you off to a good start.
Oh, your nutrients.
Yeah, well, that's your A and your B there. So you get a litre of A
Yeah.
and a litre of B for $30. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Wow. Good stuff.
So I went a little bit like kind of back to my roots with my one, which was Facebook Marketplace. We are going friends, let me paint you a picture of our Facebook Marketplace, walk and prance as we find ourselves a cupboard. Like when I was starting out Blazing Trail, I didn't have a heap of money to just kind of throw at things, and I went on Facebook Marketplace and I just like found the furniture that I needed to kind of like have a packing area, have a storage area, like all that type of stuff, and that's where I kind of started with this. Like find yourself a little kind of 70 centimeter cube or as close as you can get. Um, Cupboard, and then go and buy yourself some Panda film from any hydro store. It should be $15 to be able to coat pretty much most of that thing in Panda film, just a square meter or two. We would sort you out, and that gives you the opportunity to learn because I've got a Mars Hydro TS 600 100-watt LED in there. You are not going to get the best yields. You're not going to get the biggest plants. You're not going to get the best result ever. But $79
That
at
is
the moment to be able to do a full
that is
spin.
the budget king light, mate. Yeah, that is the
Yeah.
budget king light.
And like you will produce something. And if you come into communities like this and you learn and you grow, then you will produce something at the end that is good for you as a patient. And that at 100 watts isn't producing a ton of heat. I mean, in Queensland, it might be something you run at night. But in most states, you're going to be able to get away with a 100-watt light in that type of space, and just a couple of 75 millimeter, computer style fans like cultivates. They're selling at pretty much every hydro shop around. Super cheap, super efficient, and just a small little 75 millimeter carbon filter off Amazon. And you're not going to get the best airflow. You're not going to get pretty much any of the peak results, but you're going to get a fully functioning environment. And that combined with a bunch of very easy kind of nutrients and minerals like the A and B that you suggested before, Rue, absolutely perfect. Because once you start to get that understanding, you'll be able to balance those A's and B's out. And look, you can use more B and things like that to actually build up like the potassium and phosphates in the
Yeah, and to
soil
dial
as
things
you move
down,
through.
exactly.
Yeah,
You
it's
can pull
the
back
base
a little
point.
bit in your A and dial back that nitrogen and little things like that. Exactly.
And seeds, look, I mean, I've seen some perler genetics getting around in communities and 20, $30, couple of seeds, couple of autoflowers, make it super easy on the whole process of starting out. You're done. You have some stuff that's been bred by somebody that cares. You have some stuff that has patience in mind, it has results in mind, it has stability in mind, and it's communities like these that give everyone an in. Not every single person needs a $350 pack of seeds. It's nice to have some of that very specific, very kind of pop culture-y genetics because some of them are really cool and smell great, but it's not the same as getting something that's created by heart, and that usually costs you a lot less, but it means a lot more. So I do like that approach, and that's pretty much how I started out myself.
Well said, mate. Yeah, and I think that genetics thing. Come and see us. Have a look around on the Discord. You'll find you'll find genetics here, and you'll find access to exactly what Timmy's talking about. But also, as you move up and you start upgrading little things, and you can start looking at some of those more expensive genetics. And as you're confident in your ability as a grower to produce better quality medicine, makes popping those genetics all the more worth it. So
They're also more forgiving, especially when that's what I found out really fast. I wasted a lot of money on some shit genetics and a lot of them. And then as soon as I got started, there's just no forgiveness there. And even when you did well, it wasn't worth it. A lot of those good genetics are a lot more forgiving.
yeah,
So
but
save
even
money
something.
is what I'm sort of getting at.
Yeah, 100%. And like Timmy was saying, but some of these like $35 packs, wild root cultivars, $35 for a pack of autos.
Yeah, and you get like these are ones that have been worked. A lot of these have been worked in our climates and stuff. These are, they're bulletproof. Don't let prices fool you. That's just because they're local. Yeah, that's how it works, guys.
Exactly. Yep, stable, good enough to grow out. You'll definitely be happy with what you've got at the end of the day. So, yeah.
I suppose I'll touch on what my setup is then.
Yes,
So
please.
mine's a little less different, little less Temu, eBay, that sort of thing, because I don't know, I just never went to those places, probably should. So my first thing I started with would be a cheap jungle room tent. It's a 100 by 100, meter by meter. And it's on a website where they do a lot of bulk stuff. I won't shout them out, but that's 165. That's the most expensive individual thing. There's one of my local places. It has a 150 watt quantum board. You can find unbranded things like that locally. That's $150. You can also, as mentioned, find them on Temu and things like this. That I'd assume this is slightly better quality than those. And then you got your turbo dirt, which has got all your nutrients in it, everything like that. That's sort of a living soil, super soil. Everything's already packed in, ready to go. A lot of work has gone into that. That's 50 to 60. Is something to put it in. Bunnings pot, cheap Bunnings pot. Bunnings bins where you drill holes in the bottom. I do that with buckets and with big Bunnings bins. I do it with everything. Your timers, your $10, $15. And at the end of all that, it leaves you with about $100 to work with. Now that's where I mentioned climate. If you're in a dry place, then get yourself a cheap humidifier. If you're in somewhere with a lot of heat and whatnot, maybe a couple of fans inside of there, just to move some of that heat around and get some of those microclimates going. The intake one's a bit more expensive in my experiences from where I've looked, but you can get away with things like cheap PC fans. If you've got a bit of know-how and you've got some old rigs lying around that are half pulled apart with some cheap fans in them, you can knock something together with those. But yeah, that last $100, you work within your means there, and anything left, you can work on the genetics as has been mentioned. You can get some pretty solid things to start with, and if you go with the autos, you don't even have to worry about the bloody tent. You can figure out somewhere to bolt it into your roof if you've got the space that's your own. They don't care about that light. We don't even need the tent in some situations, as mentioned before.
Yep. And autos too saves you having to worry about your timers and things as well.
Yeah,
can
well,
just pretty
there you
much
go.
set and forget and be happy with it. So yeah, you can go as basic as you like, or as dive as deep as you like.
Especially with autos, yeah.
I love it. Tink, how'd you go? We haven't
All
heard yours.
right. Well, I just made a reassessment while we were all discussing those things, as we do. Anywho, so I can include a tent now. So I just went with the green fingers from Big W, a 120 by 120 by 200. So that was 119. And I went with
Decent size.
decent size.
These are good prices. I need links for these. I had no idea.
Yeah, green fingers. They're good. Oh, sorry, lost my brain there.
Sorry
And
to
then
throw
I
you
went
off
with
there.
the Mars TS 600, the 100 watter. The first light I ever bought. No, well, that wasn't technically the first. The first decent light I ever bought was a Mars, and that's still going. And that'd be, it could be 7 years old now. They just go and go and go and go, and they grow a decent plant. They really do. And then I went with a Spider Farm extraction because they had a sale on for 201, and that was the whole kit with a 4-inch. And then a little fan for $30, and then I just went to Bunnings, so I got the Canna Professional. And the Cannaterra and Cannaflora, Cannaterra and Cannaveg for my nutrients. And then hopefully I had a few coins left over to get humidity, one of those temperature and humidity. What do you call them?
Yeah, like a dehumidifier or humidifier, depending on what you need for your climate, I guess.
Oh,
you
well,
mean?
I've never used them, to be honest. I know that they could be quite useful, and I probably could have used one while I was here. No, I'm just talking about the reading, so the little meter that reads that you pop batteries in and it tells you what the humidity
Oh
is.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm a
you
shocker
can
when
pick
it
them up
comes
for like
to
$5 on
Oh,
eBay as well.
exactly.
Little
Yeah,
temperature,
that's what I said,
humidity,
coins.
Bluetooth
Yeah.
reader thing. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. And I think that's a really solid setup. I recommend fabric pots, only because I know that, in my opinion, that you get so much more. They're so just because of the airflow and everything like that, I just think that they work so much better for you, especially if you're hand watering, if there's only like 1 or 2 pots in your thing, and you don't have a lot of like room, if it's a rather enclosed space. I just like them. Anywho.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Dragon Force in the comments there. He said, "Don't fog up
Oh,
my tent like I did with my humidifier looking like a concert."
I know, that was pretty epic, actually, I gotta say.
Yeah, for those that didn't see,
Someone
that
else
was
thought
pretty
it was
funny. Picture on the
CO2.
Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're pouring into there. But yeah, it was definitely magical, Dragon. It was very magical, mate.
Yeah, nice work, Tink. So you've got it covered as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so look at that. That's all of us have come in around budget with all different approaches to it. I'm sure we'll all drop some links somewhere here in the Discord where people can find access to these products that we're talking about.
yeah. Because mine was all done with only online access. I've been in that attitude because I haven't had transport for a while now, so I do tend to look at things that way. So that's always helpful to know what you can actually get delivered. That's why I went with the Canon Professional Medium versus the live soil, because that's really dear stuff to get delivered. You'll pay just as much to get it delivered as you do for the product.
Yeah, and it's different growing approaches, like mud's an
Yeah,
organic, living soil approach all the time, every time.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
lazy. Yeah.
Oh, I
And
love living soil. I would
I
choose
don't, I
that.
don't, I don't know if I'll call that lazy when you start making teas and amending and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, mate.
yeah. I think it's clever, personally.
It's hard to set up, easy once you get it set up. Once you get it
Yeah,
set up, the soil's just a slave to you, mate. It's brilliant.
yeah.
Yes, this is
Exactly. Well
very
said.
true. Yeah, well
Yeah.
said, mate. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that covers our setup. So we're going to dive into the first thing that we need to go from there, which is germinating your seed. So Timmy, I'm going to let you crack off on this one because you've literally built a business around this one.
Let me tell you about seeds. My goodness. So like I had hundreds of seeds. I was lucky to kind of have a couple of mates that, did a bit of this and that and had a huge seed collection. I killed many seeds when I was starting out. Just, I was that novice at the kind of plants in general, that I had no idea how to properly germinate seeds or the importance of preserving genetics. Like it wasn't until kind of I started, buying more expensive packs that it actually was like, wait, I'm not actually putting all of my thought that I'm putting into my tent environment into germinating seeds. But especially if you are buying expensive genetics, 5 seeds, they're $75 a seed at that point. You may as well invest in something, which leads me to the importance of maintaining environment, with the seeds. And look, I know dudes that will absolutely swear by the paper towel method, wrapping it up in a plastic bag in the drawer type of deal, and that's fine. Like, because some people have spent 30 years, pioneering their knowledge around the exact parameters that need to be, germinated like that. But a lot of people starting out, look, I would always recommend a seed germinator, or at the very minimum, going on YouTube and watching some germination tips and tricks on how you can stubborn seeds going, how you can, improve the environment, and how you can keep things stable. And look, speaking from my own, experience and growth in that community, we've got, flexi germs and sprouts, which are also available at Wild Root, and they keep the environment absolutely perfect. And it is important to keep that, 26 kind of to 29 at the very maximum kind of heat range, because you want it to be acclimatized. You want it to think it's in soil, and it's not something that's easily doable in kind of very varying climates, like especially places like Tasmania or Melbourne, where it might be hot during the day, but it also might be 12 degrees at night, and that's going to impact some seeds, especially finicky craft bred kind of American seeds, because they're bred for facilities. They're bred for places that are HVAC controlled completely, and you know having something that keeps your seeds absolutely ideal, like especially a sprout unit, um, they you can't go wrong because you're not wasting your money. If it's good, viable genetics, it's going to sprout if it's in a sprout, and because it's keeping that environment perfect. So it's definitely something that if you can get your hands on something even cheaper, just like a little heat mat, so you can put your a plate or something on there to act as like a interference because most heat
Your
mats are
buffer.
on 35
I
degrees.
think he's PlayStation. I think was that
Yeah,
sent to
PlayStation, like
Brilliant.
anything that's generating a
Modem.
reasonable amount of heat, you
Mm.
can usually guesstimate to keep that stable temperature. And look, that's essentially exactly what Mud said. The PlayStation was how I first, went up from just putting them in paper towel after losing 70 odd seeds over the course of 18 months. And it's about stabilizing the environment. So always think about from the moment you touch that seed, you are crafting the environment for that seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautifully said, mate. Beautifully said. Yeah. So that's got all bases covered, and like you were saying, Blazing Trail has you sorted with your sprouts and your flexi germs, which is sort of both ends of the spectrum as well, price wise. Like your sprout being electronically controlled, like you were saying, and then the flexi germ just being like a good silicon, well-designed space to keep everything perfect. And if you combine that with a heat mat, or like Tinks and Mud said, the PlayStation, beautiful.
Yeah.
Or you can paper towel, makeup pads. Sometimes
Yep.
people use those in your snap lock bag as well. They work well.
I like
I
direct sowing,
always
but don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't direct
sorry.
sow in living soil.
Yeah, I have always, I now use the flexi thing. Sorry, I forgot the
Flexi
words
gem.
right
Yep.
then. That's all right. But I've always, like glass, I use a thick bottom glass because I do sit it on the PlayStation, and drop them into that with a little, tiny, 5 drops, 6 drops of peroxide. And I generally have a 99% strike rate in the water. And then,
Yeah. So you're talking
yeah,
like Dragon Force, sort of in the comments just mentioned, which
yeah.
is like just letting them sit in some water and letting them sink, and once they sink, they're ready to go, pretty much.
Well, yeah, I
Or they're going
often
to
wait
start to
till
crack and
they're tail,
sink, and
when they
yeah,
crack and when they're a little white. But we talked about a little while ago, about then using that water when you do plant it into your medium, and popping all that in with it, because I think there's something in there that has come out with the cracking of the seed and the
Absolutely.
embryo of the sprout and everything that is really good for that first kick off and first start for it.
well, there's
Yeah,
definitely
so don't
enzymes in there
quick to
for a
pick it out
reason.
with
Yep.
tweezers out of that water and pop it in. Just pop the whole lot in, water and all.
So just
Yeah.
to touch on that real quick, that's why I direct sow to soil, because I've done a little bit, very small amount of personal research and sort of piggybacked off other people's own research. And there is a small amount of, to my understanding, microbiology and things like that become pre-inoculated from their parents. I just want to touch on that. So that's another thing as well, if you want to get very, very deep, but that's not as important or
Yeah.
important at all. That's sort of
But
hippie things that I
well,
like
it
putting
is.
in my soil.
But you were also saying before, don't direct sow to living soil.
Yeah, that's just what I
That's
do.
generally
So,
because it's hot, though, is generally why.
yeah,
Because
you get
it's
hotworms
and it's
they'll
so
get straight into it.
nutrient fed. Yeah,
It's
I
honestly
so
the
always
nutrient
insects
rich.
more than anything. It
Yeah.
genuinely, they seem to handle the nutrients fine. What I find is it's just little worms and things that get in, and the moment they pop and eat the tap root and everything, if you have very aggressive living soil, you have very aggressive seeds. I
You see, I
consider
know a lot
early
of
form
people
of
that
hunting.
run a softer top layer.
I do. A
Yeah,
lasagna
yeah.
at the top. Yeah, definitely. Cocoa is basically what it's sprouting into, in my
And
world.
then
Yeah,
after, say, a week or so, its roots have worked its way down into that
to
more
a mix.
Yeah,
nutrient
and you can get
rich.
light
Yeah,
mixtures too. You can get
yeah.
like a seed starting mix that's light, but as I use my own mix, I'm just, I guess, incredibly lazy and ignorant. I don't know. I'm just
No,
that's
I
fixed.
think it's
That's
just
still what I
probably
do.
well sorted out as well with the processes that you're already
I
using,
lose
mate.
90%, mate.
So,
I'm terrible with
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I like to lasagna mine, so I never like using just a straight living soil. To me, it's too dense. And I like a lot more aeration, so I'll even add a bit more perlite, but I'll add a cocoa through that. And like I said, do a lasagna layer for the first couple, and you're giving it what it needs. Exactly, for the first week, it's just hitting that cocoa, and then it's starting to hit the mix, and then down the bottom, it's basically just living soil. So, yeah, I like it that
Heard
way.
of people doing it in vermiculite very recently, which I found fascinating. I wouldn't mind trying at some point, see if that gets my success up. But their method's interesting. It was large breeder out of the States.
I just
Oh, I
bought
love vermic.
a couple of bags of that, so it seems to be my next thing. That's what the nursery had, so that's what I'm going to be using.
Look, it
Yeah,
holds water better than something like perlite, just due to its
yeah,
structure. So I love vermiculite. Just
Yeah.
mm,
how it feels and sounds. There's just something about it.
yeah.
Yeah, like it. So that's got us kicking off. So now we've got our little seedling kicking up.
Yeah, yeah.
We're looking at going into the veg stage. So Mud, I'm
Okay.
going to let you lead through
Yeah.
this one because this is probably your strongest zone here, being living soil.
Yeah. So I like, as stated, I like to it when can start in the main pot, but that's obviously not realistic and also not like economical. When you can start in smaller pots, you can sort of start with small lights and smaller space, and it's costs less. Anyway, you know, potting up when you're going up in size and you get them into your bigger living soil pots, because it is more relevant to people with my methods, because in cocoa you can go very small. Yeah, depending on your setup, we'll use, say, like little solo cups as an example. Little pots. Just what I like to do is I like to get my pot. I like to dig the space and put it in there. Dig the size of the pot out, put it in there, and then obviously take the pot out. Take the whole thing out. Remove the pot. You just squeeze them. When you use those solo cups, you can just squeeze them because of how
Yeah,
pliable they are. And
yeah,
then you
they're
push the
great.
bottom, and they pop straight out. They're fantastic and they're cheap.
Yep.
So you just use that as a guide. Now, one thing to be sure of, if you're using some form of mycorrhizae, now is the the opportune time to get it on your roots, because the endomycos we use, they're internal, and they're only internal, and they're not actually what you see on the root hairs anyway. And they're direct inoculants, and you want that in early so that it can take up space. You don't want you want them taking up that space. So you plant it in there, and you just snug the sides around. You put a little bit of surface cover over that, and then you water it in. Now, you want a good water source for this when you're using organics, because probably for anything, to be honest, want a good water source to drink yourself. However, I like to add a little bit of very light things. So, for example, a little bit of kelp extracts. Some cold water kelps are better because of the nature of how they preserve enzymes within themselves. Coconut water, which is really accessible for everybody. You can get it off from Woolworths. Fish hydrolysate. Now, you want to go a little easier on that. I like to mix that in with some of the other extracts. But yeah, things of that nature, a lot of enzymes, a lot of biology, and you just want to get that really watered in and set, ready to go. And just keep that environment nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Does that cover sort of what you had in mind on that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I'm going to let Timmy touch base on here on what's happening in the soil. Let him
Everything's
nerd out a
going
bit on the soil.
bananas. Like that soil is now a thriving ecosystem, and it's up to us to kind of point it in the direction of whence it thrive. And I think a great start, like just touching on what Mud was talking about the mycorrhizae, is your acids, your supporting products, and there's nothing cheaper and easier to kind of start incorporating than humic acid. That's really like going to help base your root environment, especially in a small like solo cup type of environment, or small transplant pot, or maybe you've just got a small setup. Humic acid, like the roots are the powerhouse of the plant, and we can all want massive buds, but if we start thinking about it of having massive root zones, then the plant's gonna bring all of that forward for us. So I think humic acid is a cheap, easy, and just you can't go wrong type of additive to just begin with. To have planted in there with your seed is touch it up with some humic acid, but obviously we're not going for overwatering, because everything's going bananas at the moment, including bad pathogens. And if you have access to aloe vera or aloe vera powder, which is easy enough, if you find a branch, somewhere, in public, or you have your own aloe vera plant, you can dry that out, powderize it, and use it as a spray or a surface kind of inoculant, and it'll help support the plant's immune system. And a couple of little aspects like that, just thinking about strategically how you want to approach things, but not in an inexpensive way. Not in I'm going to put blue mat drippers in. I'm going to get the massive bee's knees range from the hydro shop, but you start saying, how can I begin my pathway to improving my space? And I think the beginning is humic acid, and getting your fulvics in there as it starts to kind of expand on that, and you're really supporting that enzymic kind of process in the soil, which will then it'll make the plants want to do more. It'll make the plants want to clear that space and occupy it in a way that benefits the outcome that you're having. And I think just man, I wish everything could be living soil and organics, because nothing does it better than something a nice organic amendment. And Bunnings in your local hydro shop have plenty of them, and the mum and pop shops, hydro shops, they are fantastic, because if you get to know the guys there, if you go in there with a good attitude, you go in there and you pick up the bits and pieces that you can from your local hydro shop. That they might even have samples. I remember when Tribus came out here in Australia.
They'll flick you a little bit here and there. Yeah,
Exactly, and get little bits and pieces to try, because they know that you're all on a journey, and you'll likely come back and buy that expensive light or buy that expensive nutrient kit, and if you see the results, and just targeting your mindset onto to what you want, which is microbial control and support, is
Yep.
definitely the easiest way to cost
So I'm just
effectively influence it.
I am going to touch on that for a second there, because I think everything you've said is spot on, and don't be scared to go into your hydro shop, but do take their advice on board. But you don't have to go and spend the 2.5, 3K that they're talking about for your first setup as well. So but listen and take their advice on board, because they're very knowledgeable people.
Absolutely, and
Generally
a
they work
discerning
there because
heart.
they love the plant like we do. So sorry, mate, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, don't be sorry. What you were saying is exactly correct. Don't let them talk you into, buying the Ferrari when you're still on your learners. And that's where just building a good rapport and going in with a discerning mind allows you to build that relationship up with them, and get involved in some little bits and pieces, freebies. And if they give you something like a little veg start or a booster or something like that, go and Google the recipe, Google what's in there, and see what it does to a plant, and that'll kind of take you down it's the opposite to a conspiracy rabbit hole. It's the plant biology rabbit hole, and it's a quite a lovely journey to go on.
It is indeed. It's beautiful to learn. So
I love
follow
hearing about
those journeys.
products that we can use for our plants that we can also use as humans. To me, that just shows how how in sync we are. When we're using those type of growing methods, and you're talking about humic acid, I mean, that's so good for humans as well.
Well, it's the same with the aloe
Um,
powder.
yeah,
I
yeah,
always compare living soil food web to our own stomach biology and processes. I really do. People
exactly.
don't understand how exactly the same, except, autotropes and heterotropes, that's sort of a
Yeah,
different thing. But, yeah, we're very, very fundamentally the same. It's incredible.
yeah. And I think that's got to give a lot of people some peace of mind to understand that this is a very like relatable as a human structure to a growing plan. Yeah, for us to be able to really take on board and get the most out of because of these growing methods.
Yeah,
Mm,
definitely.
good.
All right, let's touch on watering. So we're going to go
Yeah.
back to watering. We've just put our little bean there. It's got its little taproot showing. We've put it into our medium, whether that be our cocoa or our living soil or just our seedling starter mix.
Don't overlove it with water. That's my only advice.
So, yeah, this is something you kind of need to, don't overwater, but you need to learn this yourself, sort of thing. This
Yeah.
is something where hands-on experience, There's all sorts of tricks. You can get meters, you can kick your pot, you can lift it, you can all of that. But there are
I
rules of
think
thumb.
that they work later on, but
Yeah, so what I would do is as soon as you've got it in the soil, I wouldn't water. So is this as the tap roots out? Have we got your
yeah. So
have you
we've
got
got a
your
little
initial
taproot
sets?
sticking out, and we've just
It's
planted
got a
it. So
sprout. Have we got a sprout coming out yet, or we've just planted?
No.
Well, so how I would do it if I was in a small pot before I transplanted is I fill my soil full of, sorry, I fill my pot full of my smaller pots, full of soil. I then put them inside of a saucer full of water and I leave them overnight and I let them naturally wick up to their natural moisture levels that they want. And then I'll just merely poke a little seed, the little hole in there and put the seed in there. And that's how I will water to start with. And then I'll just leave it and I shouldn't have to do anything again until it's establishing itself. And then once it's establishing itself, I'll just water around the outside of the pot. And
yeah,
encourage
so
sort
it's
of its roots to search and
pretty
fill the pot.
similar to the way I'd
Yeah.
do it with cocoa. Then to start
Yep,
off with your little seedling.
100%.
So I would water my cocoa, just water, no nutrients at this stage.
Yeah.
One big thing, like for watering that I definitely think should be stressed as well is the ease of understanding pH with the meters and kits and things you can buy on the cheap from Bunnings and anywhere on the internet. Because look, having if you got a $20 meter and it's terribly calculated and all of that, that's fine. Because when you're starting out, if you get a broad understanding of the range that you're in, then that'll give you an appreciation for what's coming next. When you move up and you get your high end pH meters and you dial things in really heavily. But if you're watering um, 7.5 pH water in there as soon as you start out a seed, then you're going to have issues immediately, and it's not going to want to uptake the water. You're going to have wet spots. And something that's super easy to understand is even a strip test meter from Bunnings or from your local hydro store or on the internet. Gives you an understanding about what you're kind of impacting. And if you get a way to balance that, and pH up and down goes a long way for cheap. When you buy a small bottle and you're only doing a small kind of single plant to two plant kind of setup, that's a great place to begin the learning as well. Is pH and holding back, because sometimes less is more. One thing I did start out learning
There
when
is
I was a
also ways
beginner.
to do that as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I just go for this because it's a very kind of straightforward. You can just walk in, buy the kit, dip it in, and get your color reading out. And maybe there's easier ways to do that or more simpler. I'm just kind of I would
definitely.
approach this if I was starting out again as someone that like wanted to learn, but not in a high intake way. Like we could be saying, we'll start brewing lactobacillus, start breeding, like culturing things and certain teas and all that
Of
are
course.
fine. But
Oh,
if
look, we could dive right in.
yeah, and that's all well and good. But if people just have a base understanding of their pH, then it goes a long way into the effort you're going to see for your result. And it's the kiddie pool of understanding the dynamics of the environment of your soil. Soil,
Yeah.
plant, roots. This. Well, let's get that pH under 7.
100%. So look, my best tip, I think, with cocoa when you're got your little baby, just sticking its little sprout up. Just don't let the soil go dry. Don't let the cocoa dry out. You don't want it dripping wet, but just keep it moist, and that'll be happy. And then once you've got your first sort of set of main leaves, then you can start looking at watering a bit more, adding in a little bit of A and B, things like that.
I will say,
And
because I
I
am an
guess, oh
over
yeah, go.
yeah, because I've overwatered most of my life, that what I found for when I've just popped my seed in, the best way I can restrict myself is by literally just having a sprayer and just keeping that top moist. Now I've gone into a wet, I've soaked my pot of medium not dripping or anything, but it's all wet anyway, so that I'll pop that in and just to use the sprayer for the first week till I've got the green sprouts come up. And then when I water, to measure my water. So, basically it's just a cup of water, but to not water the plant, to start with a radius just around, because I'm wanting to encourage the roots to start
Yeah.
searching for that
Like Mud
extra
said,
moisture.
exactly. You're just watering
Yeah,
around the outside of the pot and encouraging those roots
yeah,
to go searching.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And they'll
nice.
soon tell you really quickly if they're too wet. I really think you've just got to have a relationship with that plant and start watching those leaves, and they really do speak volumes just in the way they express themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Mm.
All right. And so now we've just hit that first set of main leaves.
Oh, it's exciting.
So we've just officially sort of cracked into veg.
Yep,
How much are we watering then?
I'm
And
still watching. I just don't want my
Sorry,
soil to
Mud, go
dry out.
again, mate. I didn't hear that.
depends. I mean, look, it really does depend. But you want to, as Tinker said, you want to watch the plant. It depends on genetics and environment, but you don't want to drown it. Matter of fact, you want to do the opposite. They don't mind that sort of stress early on, because you have to understand, the more you make them stretch those roots out looking for water, the
Yeah.
more surface area you have for everything to take place that needs to take place, sort of with that plant. But yeah, you'd basically do the exact same thing until you get to a point where you think, I like to call it like locked in, where they sort of connect into whatever you've got going on. I can't speak to synthetics and whatnot and salts. However, with the methods I use, you can tell when something locks into the pot. And then the watering just becomes regular. But leading up to that, you kind of want to piss it off a little bit and make it angry and take it out on your pots around it. So yeah, get a bit more. Yeah, they get a
Oh,
little, when you stress them like that in those earlier stages, they get a little bit predatory, and they'll start trying to take everything around them so that they can survive later on. That was a little convoluted. Sorry.
No,
I
but well
do
said.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I agree. Sorry. I was just going to say, I just realized I actually start like bottom watering in that early veg stage, because it's not so much about the top being soaked, it's about keeping the bottom, like,
So
which
you got to
is
be
can be
very
tricky.
careful there too if you're a
I
new
do,
grower.
yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that for a new grower,
Yeah, anaerobic
personally.
conditions a lot in
No.
living soil with the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also, but that's a good
And
point. It also really does depend, because if you've got a SIP sub-irrigated plant, like a veg pot or something like that, your watering methods are going to be completely different. You want that you want her to really put in work to try and find that reservoir
Yeah.
below her.
I
Hmm.
understand the whole thing with water sitting around too isn't good for bug attraction, and it mucks with the humidity, and I get all of that. I've experienced that.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
still got to watch for root rot in those early
Yeah,
stages.
true.
You don't want them
A lot of
sitting drowning in
pathogens.
water. Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, it's
Then you're
gotta
gonna not
be
all you're
able.
gonna see all your leaves start curling up and
Yeah, you'll
Yeah,
get
I'm not
anaerobic
talking about the
conditions.
sitting in
correct.
water, I'm talking about the feeding through the bottom. So it's gotta be only enough where it takes it up within the reasonable
Yeah,
amount that
so
it will take
wicking.
it down.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Mud talking
yeah,
about. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to talk on the synthetic side of things, or the cocoa. I would generally just be that's when I'd be starting to water around the outside of the pot to run off, probably I'm going to say every 3 days, depending on conditions. Up until, like Mud said, you notice that she's well set in the pot and she's really taken. And then you can start your regular feedings. That would be my advice.
I definitely love watering in circles, like picturing the plant, and a lot of people have the understanding that plants, the top plant represents the root structure that's below it, which isn't always the case, because sometimes plants, especially in cannabis, want to grow sideways. They want to drop that taproot down and run a bunch of adventitious roots out in the mid area of the pot. And one thing that helped me not overwater when I was starting out was at the 2 to 4 week mark, I would start watering in a ring slightly out from where my best guesstimate of that root ball was. So if I'm in a 6 liter pot and it's got a tiny little sproutling in it, I'd be watering 2/3 of the way to the edge of the pot.
Yeah.
And as that center dries out, it's like, yo, where's my water gone? And starts doing that. I really liked Mud's definition of it. The plant becomes predatorial. It's like, give me my water or else. And
Yes.
I think that's a really good way to define, I guess, what we should be looking for is, dry soil doesn't, especially if you're keeping a good eye on it, doesn't always mean the worst thing in the world. It means that it's drinking that area and seeking for other things. If we're watching the health, and you can do that through various communities like the Wild Root community, or you can do it on YouTube. Just having that brief look of what a cannabis plant should look like in its various stages, and saying, well, I'm watering this much. My plant looks like this. I'm probably in a pretty good zone, and as it builds up, just continue on that steady path you're on, or slow your watering down, increase your watering. To do that, and that begins the information learning cycle of how do I identify deficiencies, extras like excess, salts in the soil, or bad microbial balances, poor water uptake, poor brick scores, like those types of things. That's the beginning of that. Is just identifying if the plant's getting enough water or if it's not getting enough.
Yeah,
And I think that that really delicate kind of like almost art, like you're cooking a soil up, because living soil, synthetic, biosynthetic, however you do it, microbials usually take place unless you're using a brand that has completely chelated nutrients. There has to be a biological aspect of the plant interacting with the soil to get the nutrient out. And yeah, water midway, 2 to 4 weeks, and allow the plant to actually do plant things.
Well said. So everyone, I think we're all sort of on the same page too. Just to sort of slightly dumb it all down again, we'll go to. Well, I'm going to say that we're all sort of in agreement that we want to be slightly underwatering during those first couple of weeks rather than overwatering, because again, that's like Mud said, it's going to force that girl to find some dominance and try and take charge of that pot.
Mm.
It also wakes some plants up a little bit. Like, there are lazy plants. You will find lazy plants that if you give them the opportunity to be lazy, they'll sit on their asses and do nothing for you. Some plants you need to slap around the face and say, get to doing your job.
Yep,
Yeah,
agreed.
I like a good fan for that. Yeah.
Yeah, Rusty in the comments has said it, and I like to say it about all my autos too. Is the same thing. Treat her mean and keep her keen. You just you do have to be a bit rough with some of them. Some of them really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yes, nice work. All right, so now we're just cracking along through veg. Everything's just singing along nice. What are we looking at temperature wise, humidity wise? Just basically, a lot of people probably aren't looking at VPD and things like that at the moment. So where are we looking temp and humidity wise, guys?
Oh, perfect. Temps around 24, and humidity anything under 60, around 60 is great for veg. Even higher
During
if you
veg?
want.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
In veg, and again, I'm from a lot warmer climate than Tink. And again, methods and all that jazz, big lights. I aim for 27,
Yeah.
28 with a very, very high humidity, especially early.
Yep.
And it will get hot in there. And in early veg, I find it doesn't matter. I've had it 31, 32 in
Yeah.
there and cranked that humidity right up. And in soil, in my setups, they don't seem to care as much as long as that light hasn't got the intensity and it's only the heat and it's not light heat.
Yeah.
It's not spatial heat, it's environmental heat, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hold
So
your
they're
hand, the back of your hand over
Yeah.
one of your fan leaves there, and you'll feel it. If it feels like it's burning your hand, it's probably burning the leaf. So
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you walk in and it's warm and the rest of it all feels the same, that's sort of what I mean. That's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, about that 20,
Exactly.
26, 27, you can go higher, aim for maybe that 70, 68 to 75% humidity. And then I lower it towards when I'm about to flip the flower. And then when I flip the flower, I crank that back up again until I lower it at about day 20. But yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So I'm about the same as you. I like to sit around that 27, 28. Sometimes during summer you can't help it, and you're pushing out into the 30s.
Yeah, 100%.
No matter
I'm
how
going
hard that
cooler right
aircon's
now.
cranking.
But that's for colours. You crop steer differently than when you're first starting out.
Of course, and that's experience and crop steering and things. And
Yeah.
that'll come with
Experience, is
time.
that what they're calling
Well, maybe.
it?
Depends on who we're talking to, mate.
Yeah, I suppose so.
All right. No, but yeah. So yeah, I'm about there too. 27-ish is my ideal sort of temp, and I'm probably 65, 70% humidity during that, veg stage.
Nice.
But that's just me. That's just where I find my sweet spot is, and that's where I find most of my girls like to sit.
Well, my soil seems to appreciate it more than my plants, to be honest with you, when I sit at about that 0.8 early, and it only stays there until about that week 3 or 4 of veg, but I veg for a while, and then I'll sort of flick to that around 1 mark, that 9, 0.9, and then 1 mark, and then the stretch. Yeah.
So
is
you're
treated
talking
different.
VPD numbers there too.
Yeah, so
Just for the
I'll
audience listening.
translate that
Yep.
a little bit. So yeah, when I'm pushing at about that 27, that high humidity is really, really bringing that VPD down and pushing that transpiration and whatnot. But there's the soil reacts differently too. You can smell it in the air when you go in the tent.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. You can. All right. So that's veg. We've nailed veg. Now, hopefully. So if we're auto flower, by sort of while we're vegging along, you're going to start to notice pistils, those little hairs sticking out. Hopefully, if you've got good genetics. And then that means you're about to be looking in at flower. If you're running photo period plants, you're going to be thinking about flipping your lighting over to 12 hours of darkness and 12 hours of light to start to induce that flower. When we're in flower, what are we looking at temp and humidity wise, guys? Blazing, Timmy, what do you reckon?
Look, I reckon early flower, you're still going to want that delicious jungles of Borneo type of veg environment, because the plant's going under a ton of physiological changes. It's using energy that we can't see, like it using versus the lower kind of rate that it was in veg. Even though veg starts getting hectic, especially towards those ends, their internals once we make that flip, or once the plant decides it's making that flip, if it's an auto, it's supercharged. It's getting ready, and this is where the beginnings of our root work and our focus on our soil and how we're going with that along this journey kind of matters the most, because once it has a good root structure and it goes into this phase, it's going to need a lot of nutrients. It's going to need to cycle photosynthesis rapidly. So look, I do week probably 1 to 3 in flower, anywhere from starting in week 1 at 28, 29 degrees is definitely an acceptable range, and
Yep.
kind of taper down to a 26, 27 to preserve terpenes and structure and integrity of the soil and things like that, with good airflow. But if we're beginning out, our best is our best. I remember when I was beginning out and I had 100% humidity, and I had a 35-degree room, and it was tough, and I didn't understand those dynamics. But if going off the list that we've built here today, and
Yep.
with a little bit of kind of basic research, you should avoid a lot of that, and you should be roughly sitting in that 24 to 32 degree kind of range, which keeps things fine. And if we can control our humidity going into week kind of 2, 3 of flower, you want to start tapering it off to that 55 kind of 60 max kind of area.
Agreed.
By that week 3, because you're getting pistils and your structures build up, and you don't want the base layer of mold to
You're going to
stop.
start getting plant mass build up. Yeah. And then you're going to look at mold. Sorry, I'm not sure if we've just lost Timmy there or.
No, I meant the chat is going off. I keep getting distracted by it because the community is turning up for
Yeah, it's good.
I think they've had a better chat than us, to be honest. Wow.
Yeah,
Good job,
no, it's
guys.
good.
Yeah.
But that like you said, Mud, there in the chat, that fresh air is fundamental, and that's why we've all gone with an extraction fan. So we're pulling that humidity and that used air and oxygen out. And
if you've got autos, just open the damn thing up. Like, it is that simple sometimes with a fan. Like, that's when I first started, and I didn't have sort of the proper environment for the airflow, and I knew I was having airflow issues. I just opened the thing up and put a pedestal fan blowing into it, and that was my airflow. So
Yeah, no,
exactly,
I've done that.
you're a $15 clip fan.
yep.
Yeah.
Go down to Woolies or Coles or something. I think they've normally got them there too. That's enough as long as it's moving a little bit of air around.
And-
That'll stop that mold build up.
I'd like to also touch, it's not just mold. Airflow is, I didn't realize until there was a gentleman, I don't remember his name, unfortunately, and it was a video I was watching. He's just a grower, just a grower. He's a very good grower, and he's from Canada. And he was having some issues, and they look like deficiencies, and they look very bad, like deficiencies and root bounding all in one. And he's sitting there saying, don't worry, it's just airflow, and including myself, all of the people in the comments were like, no, it isn't, you're crazy. And even I didn't say anything, but even I was like, I don't know better than this guy. I'm new to this, but I think he's wrong. And then the next video, he may have been lying. I don't believe he was. He had increased airflow. He had a much better airflow system, and they had perked straight back up. And I noticed with my own plants, I was noticing issues, and I just upped that intake fan to get that airflow, and you'll get some big differences with some good airflow. It's very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
transpiration and things like that take place in the
There's
plant.
got to be
They
more to
need
that too.
airflow. Yeah.
There's got to be something, being so much into outdoor and just watching the wind and had the effects it has on the roots and on the strength of the
Pests
grow
too.
and strength of all of that. To me, like, I have my fans cranking and it's not just for airflow, that's a big part of it, but it's more so that they build up a strength as well.
Yeah, definitely. You want
Yeah.
them to be able to handle that. Yeah.
And that transfer as well isn't just giving us CO2, like atmospheric CO2. The roots also use oxygen as a part of their root respiration, process, which impacts photosynthesis. So
Which is
it's
something we've
something that,
overlooked.
yeah, and it's something that water culture type of kits, your aquaponics and deep DWC, that that will measure things like dissolved oxygen, because in a root environment like that, you're wanting to deliver the oxygen directly to the root. So having that good airflow, it's another critical part. I would probably say step number 2 on the ladder after genetics is working on your airflow, getting that nice, and being able to find ways, whether it's your hand or whether it's sensors or little cheapy hygrometers, whatever it is, to be able to understand that space and how the air is moving in it is number 2 on that list. After
Humidifiers help. Just, your mist and humidifier is a good indicator of seeing the flow. It's just not super accurate, obviously.
No, but even if you're in a cupboard, like you guys were talking about, just doing a little cupboard grow, something like your little incense misters, as long as you're not adding oils in it and it's clean.
Those diffusers,
you
yeah.
go,
Yep.
yeah, diffuser, that's the one.
I
That's
see
enough to
dragon's
put
blood
some
right now.
moisture in the air.
Yeah, I've used them. Yep.
Yeah.
That's why
Especially-
I love soil, because I can just overwater a little bit if they're in a state to do so, and that helps me with my humidity, but that also works in
Well,
reverse.
soil's
so
beautiful for that buffer, isn't it? Like that.
it's beautiful for everything.
I'll
I'm
just
so
put a
lazy. It's fantastic.
bucket of water in the tent if I need to,
There you
or
go.
hang up a wet towel, and that fixes the humidity.
Yeah, wet towel's one that I've recommended to people before as well that are
If you're in
struggling
birch,
getting
give 'em
humidity
foliar.
up.
Yeah. Give a spray in the tent.
Yep, there's always little tricks and tips and ways around it. But definitely. Misting is great, especially in if it's hot, but it's hot air, like Mud was saying, not hot direct heat from your light. If it's just
Mm.
hot, humid air, keeping them a little bit moist too, I find helps keep them happy. So just misting them gently, bit of foliar,
Hmm.
because they
So,
transpire just like us. So
Yeah.
that's going to help them cool down as well.
Mm.
and read the plant. They'll tell you. And
Yeah.
one thing I want to say very quickly on reading plants is severe overwatering and severe underwatering can give you very similar signs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just be very mindful of that.
Yeah.
If you're watering and watering and watering and you're not getting results and you think, gee, this thing must be thirsty. It's not. It's probably the opposite.
Yeah.
And on reading plants, maybe bring it back a bit to living soils and things like that, and being able to do it cheaply, and what things you can do cheaply and read your plant in a way. How do you explain it? You don't have to go expensive with things, and
No,
when you look at a plant and you see issues, don't think like, oh, I have to go get this, and this. You might even have on things around that can already fix it. Um,
Yeah.
you can
A bit of
you,
CalMag fixes everything, doesn't it?
a bit of it flashes, just some cow bag, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a bit of CalMag, mate. You'll be right.
yeah,
But
CalMag's the go-to.
Yeah.
It's
It's
deficient,
still my
CalMag.
go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, look,
it's fun
that's
trying to get
probably
cow mag.
actually appropriate in cocoa. Living soil
Yeah.
completely different, but yeah,
Yeah, it is.
cocoa loves to eat your CalMag
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I mean that cation issue, isn't it?
exchange,
That's where
isn't
it
it?
really
Yep.
likes to get that balance with everything. So as I was saying, like if you don't need to go hard with the living soil. Do you have honey? Do you have some cheap molasses? Do you have a worm farm outside because you do other gardening? Do you eat bananas? Do your children eat bananas? You can get the banana skin. You can make compost teas. You can make
Apples.
nutrient teas, apples, anything. If you can find some worms, you can make a quick worm farm, and there's your intake of everything you put into that compost, that vermicompost, that worm farm. There's all that going in. There's comparisons for. I'll use bagged goods for example. You have Dr. Green Thumb who has. I'll use him. There's a couple in Australia, but that's the one I use. Um, and it has things, your coconut, it has, your oyster flour, it has your neem seed meal and your kelp oil. It has everything like that. But you get a couple of kilos of that for a really boutique style sort of top dress, and $30 for one bag, or you get it in a set and you get 80 for three bags, or you can get some sort of byproduct from the slaughter industry, and you can get like blood and bone meal and things like that. There's a company I believe called completely forgot, terra firma or something along those lines. I can't quite remember. I could be incorrect there, but they do a big blood and bone meal and organic life or organic extra, and it's something like that. And anyway, you get like 15 kilo bags, and they're $30 a pop. Like you can't go. They're pelletized, and you can't go wrong with that. You can even bloody chuck some grass clippings in a pile, and then some brown matter, some leaves and some cardboard in a pile, and leave it over summer and turn it, and then that's cheap too. You can do all of that. There's so many cheap methods you can do. You can create like a complete hugel culture from scratch. I've done these things. You can get your kitchen scraps and the logs you've felled and things like that, and you can layer them. You can dig a hole and layer them and things like that. That's outdoor, but there's a lot of things you can do if you can be bothered trying to
You
find
can
out
do
how. You
all of
don't
that,
have to
and
pay
then you
money.
can cook off that soil and bring it inside too, if you want to.
Yeah,
If you're worried
exactly,
about
which is what I
bugs,
do. That's a
there's plenty of
lot of
ways.
what I do.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
There's and so come on the Discord, have a chat, discuss it with us, because we've
Good
all
luck
got
getting me to shut up about it.
methods
There's
on methods on
examples too.
methods. Yeah,
I show
That's
how I
good.
do these things, and
Passionate.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's why we exist, because we all sort of try and show what we do and how we do it, and yeah, that's
So to
good.
iterate, yeah, like whatever you can get. What do you want to feed your plant with the living soil thing? Whatever the hell you can get, and
Yeah.
read the plant, and it just anything.
And if you are going organics, look at what your waste is out of the kitchen and
Mhm.
how that can be best utilised and everything. I've been
Can
grinding
save
up my
so much
banana
waste.
Well, it
skins
might
for
make you
years.
understand how much waste you actually,
Oh,
produce.
and
Yeah.
how
Very well
useful
said,
it
yeah.
is, how useful it all is.
I mean, even human waste is useful, not in growing out per se. Human
Well, yeah,
compost, not ideal.
if it break
Uh,
down properly, it still would be. It's just the breaking
I was
ah,
down
going to say,
phase.
I'm
it's a
sure I
matter
know of
of
someone
what's
that's
in
done
it.
a whole grow like that. There's a
Oh,
guy
we
that
all
There's
do,
some
don't
that
we?
actually
places,
grows.
some places
Yeah,
in the States where you can get where they're subsidizing and you can get sort of county funded compost and they're actually being caught using human compost. The issue is actually pathogenic
yeah,
and
Oh
perma
yeah.
pesticides and things like that carrying over. But
Yep.
yeah, so I can't
We're
remember how I
digressing a
started
lot
that,
anyway.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
so human waste, for example, you can do it in. There's a specific type of bag that you can fill full of human waste and animal waste, and it produces gases that you can then
mm,
burn and cook food on, and hot water and things like that. So yeah, exactly as Ting said. Waste avenues. I've completely closed so many of mine down. I have an old canopy, an old ute canopy turned over, and that's my compost. That's how big it
mm,
is. So
mm.
everything.
Yeah. And even like, this is going to sound so silly, but Mud won't think so. Like when you're cleaning out all your hairbrushes and stuff like that. I mean, all of this stuff is so useful when it comes down to the composting process.
Yep.
It sounds stupid, but it's not, you
Where
know.
do you think it goes, guys, when it ends up on the ground and falls out of your hair and just goes on the
Yeah,
ground? Where do you
Yeah.
think it goes? Why
I
aren't
was
we
going
up
to
to
say
our
we,
eyes
we,
in
we
it?
have covered this in a previous potty, I think.
We always
yeah,
do.
Exactly this.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
good. Hey, recycle.
it's good. It's good, but
Yeah,
that's right. Recycle everything you can. Yep,
yeah,
definitely, and
yeah.
it's all
And
useful in some way, shape, or
you
form.
know, we are talking about the simple process, the money saving options. So I suppose, that's when we look at organics even more and what we can utilize around. We probably should be looking at that first, but it's a good discussion to have.
Yep, definitely. All right, and now we're flowered. We're flowering.
Yay! I love
What are we
flowers.
looking for? Well, when we're coming to the end of our flowers, how do we know? Yeah, Baz in the comments here saying smells. Smells
Yeah. Smells,
smells are,
sights,
are, are good, but smells
micro,
are
get
also
a little
bad because that means your terpenes are just poof, they're
waffling.
Volatile,
evaporating.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
They're
can't help a lot of
volatilising
it
off
though.
exactly.
Some of them
No,
can't be
you can
helped.
bring your temperatures down, and you'll notice if you're at 27, 28 degrees, that grow is going to stink. If you bring it down
Yeah.
to 24 degrees, you'll probably hardly smell it.
Right. Interesting. There you go. I learned something new. I knew that, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, and there's reasons why we pick up on it so much and why they're so volatile to heat and things like that.
Yeah.
Similar reasons I've covered before, that we pick up on the smells of fuel and diesels and things like that, and that's why we akin a lot of these terpene profiles
What's
to
everyone
things like
recommend?
that. Everything, and it's cultivar dependent. Like everything you need to
Oh,
look at. Yeah, I mean that's a very broad question. Do you want to go deeper on that?
Okay,
Be
well
more
I'm
specific?
just I'll dial it down. I don't think so. Trichomes. That's
So is that what you mean? So like right at the end of
yeah. So
flower
how
when
do
we're
you
looking
know
when they're
when
fully
when we're
done?
looking at them? How do we know when we're ready? How do we know when we're
I
finished
suppose
flower?
whether they're clear, whether they're milky, or whether they're amber. So the
Or a mix
colours
of
of
them.
them, the transparency of them. I'd look at them under a microscope personally, just one of those little jeweler's
Jeweler's
loops.
loop, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can get
Jules Loop.
digital ones, the Bluetooth. You can get ones that are corded. You can get one of them that are over you. Some of them are over your Wi-Fi, but definitely your trichomes. It's
Mm.
different. The ratio is different for everybody, obviously, and your purpose will be different. And again, I believe it's cultivar dependent for the effect you're looking for. So that's what I mean. This is a very varied thing, but I'll let some of the more experienced people talk about what the ratios they look for are.
Well, I've also found that with some autos you don't get the ambering, so it can be really tricky to know whether it's fully um, done or not for
And they'll
me.
keep
So
going too during the dry. Keep that in mind
yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
For some, to some
So
capacity.
that the amber, well, while we're touching on that, amber is your THC. It's degrading. Once it hits that
Yeah.
point, your THC is degrading. You're
Yeah.
losing the quality,
So I'm looking for a
and it's
milky
converting.
trichome with the 1 or 2 amber. To me, that shows that the milk is done, and then I will pull.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
everyone said, everyone's different, but and it can be cultivar dependent. But as a
And
general
sometimes
rule
you
of
look for
thumb,
terp profile too. Some
Yep.
things
yeah,
lose terp profiles early or later. Like a lot of, I cannot speak from any experience whatsoever, apart from some CSI things I've ran, but like some of the chem things, they were very different at different stages with their profiles. You know, there's a lot of things to take into consideration.
yeah. But I think we're still talking. This is someone's first grow.
Yeah. So,
They've got
Yeah,
no
right.
idea about terpene profiles. You know what I
yeah.
mean? They're just looking at their plant, going, "Oh shit, do I chop it or not?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
think
just trichomes.
Yeah, I think it's I personally think that it became like, oh, you want full amber, and I think we lost the thought that that's actually degradation of your THC of your trichomes. So, in my opinion, you wouldn't want it
Well, they're
that.
breaking down and they're going to your CBNs
Yeah.
and things
So,
like that.
and if it
Then,
goes,
so
oh,
if you're
that's
looking
going
for a
to
nighttime sleep,
yeah,
nighttime smoke, that's probably something that you'd want to let it degrade a little bit and break down, and you probably want more ambers.
yeah, I suppose I'd head more for the cultivar I'd choose in the beginning, or the strain I'd choose in the beginning for that anyway, versus the
Put them both
breakdown of.
together,
Yeah, yeah,
cultivar and taking them a bit
yeah,
long. You know,
that's true. Yep,
I like to harvest a little early. I'm one of those ones that's a little on the early side. I like to little bit
Mm.
clear,
it
probably
is
about
good.
5% clear to be honest. The rest will be, um, yeah. I don't like a lot of amber, and one thing to consider is one small bit of amber is that trichome considered an amber trichome. That's already the process taking place. It will already take place in
That's it.
that inside of
Yeah.
that trichome. So
Yeah, that's
that's
the
something to keep
breakdown
in mind as
starting.
well.
Yep. Yeah,
Look,
so I don't personally, I don't. Oh, sorry to interrupt, Timmy. You go, mate.
no, I was just gonna say I like a like kind of 70-30, 80-20, kind of like milky trichome heads and amber. I just always found that the plants expressed a little better in terms of like the profile that the way how it's like great for this, great for that. It helps with this. Some breeders will include the medicinal effects of it, and I found having that kind of broader spectrum of cannabinoids available was a more authentic expression of what I guess the breeder was trying to achieve with that certain genetic. And you know,
Yeah.
little jeweler's loop and my hack, because I bought a terrible jeweler's loop when I first started, was putting my phone over it and zooming in on my phone, and
Yeah.
on certain angles and with certain lighting, it'll make it a bit more clearer, and at
Yeah,
least
and
give you an
another little
understanding
tip
of
on
what you're
that
looking at.
is do it on video.
Yeah.
Record a high res video,
Right.
and then you
Yeah.
can go back and pause and zoom in
Ah, I see, clever.
because your frames are generally on a high res video. They're just a little bit better than you'll get on a photo
Right.
with modern phone cameras, anyway.
Yeah, no, good to know. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, spot on to me. I like that tip. I
And
was just
don't
exaggerating.
don't follow what it says on the packets. I mean, you can if you want. I'm not your mother, but they're very generally not accurate. I don't even look at them anymore, like at all. I don't even know what I'm getting in for when I put
Yeah,
something in there.
no,
Genuinely,
that's
you
a
go off genetics.
huge thing with someone that's like autos as well, mate. I agree. It might say 100 days on the packet. You could be done in 65. You could be done in 45, depending on how you grew
And
it.
it's pheno too. It's pheno specific. I've had
Oh, big
plants
time
where
Fino. Yeah.
49 days it was done, and the breeder had heard of this, never encountered it himself. It was very rare. And then I've had the same packet go as long as 70. So it is also very pheno specific.
Correct. Yep. Well said.
Yeah.
So yeah, I reckon we're all in agreement there. Jeweler's loop and start looking at your trichomes. My prime picking time is as soon as I see any amber. If I see amber, I'm chopping.
Interesting.
because they're going to start to break down as they dry as well. That process is still going to continue for the next 2 or 3 days. So that's the way I go about it. Yeah. And then I find
I think that's a pretty good way to look. I love.
Sorry,
And
mate, that was
like
a bit
you'll also
patchy.
learn.
Yeah, you do. You learn as you go, and everyone's different. You know, everyone finds what suits them better, I suppose. And everyone's then we're looking at your drying style and your curing style and things like that are all going to affect it as well.
Absolutely. Also, look at I use pistols as indicators to look at the trichomes, just to give you a bit of like an
Oh,
instant visual cue.
keep
So
going.
Yeah, good idea.
pistols are a really good one. Some things don't bother. Some things will keep their white pistols like
Very
forever.
well.
Some
However,
pistols turn pretty pink. Some pistols go
yep,
purple.
some do.
Some
Yeah, some are red. Yeah, some are
Yep.
gorgeous red. Man, I've seen. But yeah,
They generally change from white to a colour of some sort.
yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, look at your pistols. They'll be nice, vibrant. Hopefully, they don't go brown and look dead. If they're going brown and looking dead, you might have a lovely seed run incoming. But when they go that lovely orange and they start to pull back into themselves and sort of just look age like a strand of a flower that's sort of done what it's done.
Yeah.
Start to look at trichomes. Start to have a look. Some things they will be ready when the pistils only just start to orange off.
Yep.
And you've definitely got that plumping up in your calyxes.
Oh yeah, you can definitely
Gone
see that.
from, but that's part
Sushi
of that
mentioned, yeah.
process as
Yeah, the
well, where
final
it'll
swell
start
there. Yeah.
bubbling and the popcorning. Yeah. Yep.
Some
One
will
thing-
try and. Sorry, go ahead, Blazing.
No, I was going to say one thing I'd like to add for, I guess, the people starting out on their journey and kind of their beginning steps once they get to this stage is, the plant needs airflow through these flowers. So, you knock it out of the park, you grow the biggest head you've ever seen, and you've got leaves and stems and smaller flowers all kind of leaning up against it. It's lowers or, just the underside of this flower. And, it's something
Or
that
a
I
really
forgot
dense
to
nug.
mention. Yeah, and you end up with dead zones where humidity will get trapped, and you can lose flower and you can lose crops by not having good airflow or any airflow through the center of your plant. And I should
Our
have
friend
mentioned it
botrytis.
earlier, because as we're coming into that kind of week 6, 7, and 8, is our chance to separate the plant stems who want to be power producers from the general riffraff and the plant's not going to not use the resources because you've cut away a bunch of inner smaller stems or lower smaller stems, or there's some really great resources out there on just general plant training and trimming. And it's something that I just wanted to come back on and touch about the late stages of flower is less is always more in the cannabis space, because you can have 2 dozen heads all pushed up against each other and they all get the same nutrients that are coming through that stem, but you end up with bud rot in half of it because there's no airflow around those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you're going back to that, I'll go back to that sort of a little bit further back than that on the sort of the vegetative stage when you're looking to flip the flower. Here's a good indicator for you guys. If you're this has worked for me. It's not it's a tip, it's a tool. It's not the go-to. If you're trying to figure out what space you need for flower, how long you want to veg, all of that jazz. So I push all of my plants up to one side and I bunch them right up. I make sure the canopies are all touching and it's like I would when they're in flower in a whole flower canopy. And when it is half of my flower space, now I learned this from a YouTuber, so hush. Yeah, this isn't my trick. You'll generally get pretty close to where you're at, and this is obviously dependent on environment and genetics, but it's a good indicator. If you shove all your, you got two plants and they're photos, and you shove them to the side, and they're half of your 3x3, probably time to flip the flower, and train and clean it up. Start some of that pre-flower training, and then when you give it a couple of days, and then flip the flower.
Yeah, well, you can expect them to double.
Yeah.
At least.
That's what I was hearing.
At least, yep.
Yeah.
At least is the key wording there.
Yeah. At
But
least.
yeah, that pushing them into a corner is just a good indicator instead of just seeing them all spread out and doing it by eye. When you can actually visibly see the space and set it in your mind, it's a lot more of a good measurement. Like a visual measurement really helps more than you'd think.
Yeah, well
I've
said,
had
mate.
grown to
Well said.
tent so many times. I think that's really valuable information, Mum.
It is. It was one that we
Yeah,
sort of skipped over there. So yeah, well
yeah,
done. And
Yeah,
like
no,
Blazon
mate.
was saying, as in you've gone to flour and all those little popcorns are starting to show down the bottom. You can go along and get rid of them. Don't be scared to get rid of them. Don't be scared
Yeah,
to
I go
trim off
really
all
hard
those
on that.
lowers and
mm,
Lollipopping, yeah. Bottom third, I
yeah.
think people
Top, look,
say. I do more. I
yeah,
sometimes go to the top third.
yeah, about
But yeah,
bottom 30% generally. Um,
yeah.
But yeah, it all depends on your growing style, and that'll change as you go. If you start netting, and some people run 2 nets and things like that.
yeah,
So
trellising, exactly right. Trellising.
yep,
You've got your topping as well, so that you don't have to worry about your height as much either, which means you don't have to trim as much below. You've
so
got
topping. When
your.
we're talking topping, what do we mean there?
So we
Some people
mean
might not know.
so roughly the rough idea is you go from your first true set of leaves, you measure about 4 to 6 nodes depending who you are and your methods, and you cut that the middle stem off the apical meristem, I don't fucking know what it's called. I did when I covered it, but yeah. And what you're doing is just encouraging all of your hormones, everything like that, all of the life of your plant to reconcentrate its efforts, because there's hormones that focus on the very top of a plant, and that's how they compete out in nature, and you can force it to spread that out. And the more even you keep a canopy in a plant, and the more even you keep the nutrients spread to your nodes,
Yep.
the sort of more uniformity. And so it's very hard to explain how they react. It's something you'll have to view
We
yourself.
have,
They really like it.
and we have covered that too a bit more
We
in
have
depth in
indeed,
a
yes.
previous episode. So if you want to go back and have a listen and dive a bit deeper on stuff like that, we have covered some of that. But yeah, very well said, Mud. Definitely something else that needs to be taken into account.
And you just tie down. Here's a quick one. Sorry, while we're covering this, here's a cheap trick for you. I like to pin things down because I use big soil pots, so I can I top, and then I lay all of the sort of the branching that comes out of that down, and then I pin it down. And what I use is go commandeer some of your missuses or your husbands or your families or anyone's, probably not your neighbors or something. Don't go into their bedroom, and get some coat hangers and
Not unless
cut
you've
them
been
up with some
invited.
pliers. Well,
Yeah.
don't steal their coat hangers while you're there, though. They might think you're a bit of a
Bit of a
creep.
weirdo.
So get the coat hangers, and then you can cut them into sort of like tent peg shapes, and then they're really good cheap ways to train and pin your things down, especially if you're mainlining and things like that. But that's an advanced technique, the mainlining. But yeah, they're good to just tie downs. Bulldog clips as well. You can clip to the side of your pot and then just string. There's all sorts you can use.
Yeah,
Gosh, I
that's
use
it. Just get
electric
creative
tape
with it.
for years. Yeah.
Or you've also got like your super cropping clips. Super cropping, the method of massaging or pinching a branch to
Or
snap
come and see
the
us
internal.
over at the
Yeah.
Wild Vault. We got low stress training clips as well, things like that.
And they're brilliant.
But
They're
which are also
brilliant.
great.
They're better than super cropping, because in
Well,
super
you
cropping you'll
can-
do what I do and you'll kill shit.
But you can
constantly.
use them super cropping too. I use them. To hold the weight while I'm waiting
Yeah,
for
well,
that
that's
knuckle.
sort of what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When you do it the way I do it, you have to pinch and damage a lot more. You don't sort of manipulate. You're sort of forcing it. And I always, when you're super cropping, you don't want to break the surface of the external, cell wall and surface of
External
the plant.
structure,
So
correct.
structure. There we go. You want to hear that pop. So when you use these clips, it just gives you so much more leniency. Think it like a splint. You know what I mean? When you're resetting a bone, you don't just reset it and go on your way.
Yep.
It gets popped back in, and you get a splint around it, and there you go.
That's
and then
it. Hold it where you like it, and
Yep.
yeah,
And they've
it'll
got
knuckle up and
degrees.
lock in.
Yeah, they've got degrees, so you can start and
Yeah,
you
they're
can just
adjustable.
load. Exactly. Well, that's what I love the most, is that they're flexible, so you can start small and then get tighter and tighter with the bending. It's good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really
cool.
like them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's basic. All our basic sort of training methods are covered, I guess.
Yeah, sorry to go back to that, guys. I just completely forgot. I
No, it was
I
good.
wanted to talk
No, it
about
was
that and
good. We
skimmed over
needed to
that,
recap that.
and
Yeah.
Timmy reminded me. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, and
To
another one I'm
jump on
reading
that,
in the. Oh, go, Timmy. Yeah.
no, I think we were both on that same wavelength for a moment there, Roo. If you're mentioning Baz's comment about
I am. Yeah.
fade color, yeah, we were both fiending for it because I think it's everyone's favorite part of the process is what happens at the end, and how do you know you're at the end outside of your trichomes and your terpenes and your calyxes, and that's fade and it's color expression, and you might nail it. You might hit the nail on the head, and you might get some absolutely beautiful plants that you've seen in photos before, but you've now produced it. Are you
Yep.
shocked? Like how do we discern through that, and how do we get?
Keen to hear about this because I can't get senescence. So I can a little bit, but there's not a lot I've been able to do in my setups to really push that beautiful autumn colors that a lot of you guys can get. I can't get that senescence properly. That fade, sorry for people listening that are new.
And that's because you've got a delicious living soil that is so thriving and rich that it's locking in just every nutrient that a plant could ever want, and it's so teeming with life that it's just cycling over so efficiently.
Yeah, I
And,
can't convince them to want to end. I just can't
yeah,
convince them to want to finish up.
and that I guess is the side benefit of if somebody was starting out in cocoa, they might see this more early on, or they might just build a bomb ass living soil and just kick goals just consistently, and but in cocoa we'll start flushing 2 weeks before the end because cannabis is an accumulator plant. It's storing up all of the nutrients inside of its leaves, and you know in that process it's not something that I learned in my early years, but the plant is still absorbing certain elements in the soil. It's locked out most of the nitrogen uptake. It's locked out all of the phosphorus. It's
See, that's
moving
what I was
towards like
going
a
to say. This is also a debatable topic. So I'm going to sit
Yeah,
here and
mate,
listen to you talk about your flushing. So yeah, go. I like this. This is good.
I don't think flushing is strictly necessary, but I think that it helps aid in the final expression, the fade,
It does.
the terpene
Agreed.
production, because it's exciting the resin glands because it's putting the plant into a state of survival. It's like, oh, my nutrients are running out. I need to get some resin. I need to catch some pollen and impregnate my seeds and carry on my lineage. And the way that it's doing that in this phase is through potassium and things like zinc.
Yep.
Where a lot of people in the late stages of flower will be like, oh, I've got a CalMag deficiency. Well, you likely have a zinc deficiency, which is a common trace element that comes with all hydrostore CalMags. And
Yes.
a good way for a beginner to kind of go through this process is you're counting your weeks, you're watching your plant structure, you're having a look at your YouTube guides, you're in the community chat, you're having a look at other people's plants, and like I reckon it's time to flush. And you might be on week 7, you might be with a sativa on week 9, and you're like, well, there's probably 2 weeks left. A great thing to do is banana tea. That is potassium.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's going to help bring out everything in the soil. And a part of the fade, that you want is the reduction of those trace elements and enzymes that are in the plant's leaf and leaf matter itself, which is how we get as nice purple, black, blue,
Yep.
all the colors of the rainbow buds. Is that we've reduced it back to its kind of cellular structure by reducing the nutrients and chlorophyll that's in there, because the plant's putting it all into survival, because we're draining the soil, and it can tell that it's not there's not a ton of excess nutrients kind of sitting around.
Yeah,
So
correct.
banana tea is great. Have some bananas. They're great for you. Make a tea out of it. Away you go.
that's really good to know. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Very, very well said, Timmy.
Mm.
And I think that that touches back to mud, like you were saying, on his soils just so supersized that it's feeding all of those goodnesses all the way through. So you're probably not going to catch that fade like some of us can in cocoa, where we can steer away from certain nutrients and and encourage it, like Timmy was saying.
But the yield and expression in other ways is likely better in that type of environment as well. You just you're
Exactly. There's
getting a
trade-offs
better
for
expression.
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, and that's where a lot of cocoa and synganic sort of growers now are saying, that they're stopping flushing altogether, because you don't flush in organic soil. If you were a tomato grower or something like that, you're not going to stop feeding it for the last 2 weeks when your tomatoes are looking healthy. You're going to keep
No,
feeding them because you want that bricks concentration right up there. You want those high bricks numbers, and you want that juicy, well-fed tomato.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I definitely agree with you. Like realistically, we're trimming off all the fan leaves and big accumulator leaves, and it's
yeah,
it's it's a non-issue, for us at the end of the day. So flushing isn't really necessary, unless you're in like deep water culture or a cocoa setup where you're like, well, I might trade off 10% of my yield for a bit more color expression, a bit more resin
exactly.
or terpene production, but you know, looking at things that have potassium in it, like our banana tea friend here, and there's a bunch of like Horty Raw K from Green Planet, I think it is. It is a great,
That's good stuff if you
perlated.
know what you're doing. That stuff's very
Exactly,
good.
exactly, and then that's how you play catch up on the living soil, and to be straight up, cocoa is always playing catch up with living
Yeah, I
soil.
used it in cocoa. It's great in cocoa if you know, again, if you know how to use it.
But starting off with the banana tea gives you that
Oh yeah.
base level entry into exactly that kind of process that you're targeting there, and
Yep,
Teaches you
you
how to
of course.
use it too, as you
yeah,
say, yeah, that introduction is important. I didn't even make that connection. Yeah, learning how to use these things is probably more
Yeah.
important because I burnt so much. Man, I got my first photo run, I got great results in cocoa. I did it in cocoa, frequent fertigation. Great results in terms of yield, but nothing else burnt the shit out of it. But yeah, sorry to carry on there, Timmy.
no, and then there's other cheap alternatives as well that you can use. You can get zinc sulfate, you can get Epsom salts,
Yeah, I was going to
things
say
like that.
Epsom
To
salts.
mix
You
those
probably
in.
find them in your bathroom cupboard. You
Yeah.
don't have to go and get that fancy, terp booster from the hydro shop. That's probably, if you read the bottle, it probably is just Epsom salt anyway.
When you
Yeah,
use an Epsom salt, just be aware if it is like a beauty product and you're nicking your wife's or something like that, don't use ones with like oils in them, like plant oils,
Essential
essential
oils
oils, and
added in.
stuff like
Yeah,
yeah. Just be careful of stuff like that. That's all.
be
But
careful. Make
they're
sure it's
cheap in every
pure
way.
Epsom salt. Correct. Yeah.
but for about $35-40, you can make 200 gallons. Like I
Yep.
just used a base calculator with some numbers in it, and you can make 200 gallons of magnesium zinc kind of mix, and chuck that in
That's
with
an
your banana tea,
IBC.
and
That's
bang.
800 liters.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very cheap once you start
Yeah,
going in,
wow.
and yeah, and if you want to go smaller again, you can get $5 and $7 packets of these items, and make up 100 liters of
A little
nutrient
bit goes a
solution.
long way, people.
For
Yeah.
$28. So that with some bananas, and you've got a full structured enzymic flour booster at the
Beautiful
end.
terp tea. Yeah. Yum.
Yeah.
And also the salt itself, it will help create that tea too. You know, you look at a lot of the old ferments and things like that. They use seawater. What do you think? A lot of it's in seawater. You know,
Mm.
yeah, a lot of minerals and stuff in that stuff that will help assist the process of breaking all those things down too. And
Yep.
it's so cheap and accessible.
Yeah. Very well said, guys.
Mm.
Yeah, I like that. We've touched on a few things that we probably didn't quite have to touch on, but I love it because, yeah, it's good giving everyone the options.
Yep.
Should we cover the dry super quick for people because we've
Yeah,
just
so that's what
explained
I was
how to
about to say.
cheaply
Let's
grow and
get
everything
into
like
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're there. We're at the chop. So we've chopped. We've found our happy spot for our trichomes, whether that be our all milkies, our 10%, our 30%, whatever we decide we like and whatever we're chasing. We've chopped. Personally, I'm going to try and hang that whole plant upside down.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's
I know a
me.
good spot that we've just created with our $500, or under budget setups is, you've just made it successfully to harvest. Hang it in the cupboard, hang it in the $10 tent. Hang it
That's right.
in the space that you've
Clean it
just
first.
successfully. Yes, yep, great piece of advice, Mud. Clean
Yeah.
it first.
Pull it out, give it a clean, a bit of a wipe down with maybe a diluted bleach solution. Just gets rid of any of those pathogens and things like that.
So
Alcohol,
when you're using that, let it
ISO is
sit for a
great.
bit first too. Don't just spray and wipe. Let things like that sit and do their job. A lot of people make the mistake of just spraying and wiping. You're not going to remove a whole lot by doing that with bleach solutions and things of that nature.
No, so yes, and also put your heater in there.
Mm.
Just on gently, and get those temperatures up inside that room or space or tent, because if you're cracking over sort of 30 degrees, you're going to start killing off a lot of things as well.
Suppose you blast your light too. You'll kill a lot of spores doing that as well, because they're forced out in the open with cleaning as well. That's good. That's a good idea. I didn't think about that.
Not while you're
Yeah, so
hanging your
it's-
plant.
No, but
No. This is so you've pulled it out of your tent, or you're getting ready for
this
your
is prepping
trip, so you
the
pull it out. Yeah, and you clean up your space. Yeah, you can give it a blast for a few hours. Put your little bathroom heater in there and get that temperature right up there and cook it off.
Then we want to bring it back down, don't we?
Yeah, because you want another one already ready
Yeah.
to go in there. Like, seriously. Hang it outside, guys.
Well,
Hang it on your clothes horse.
No, don't you dare hang
no,
it outside.
don't do that. No.
Negative.
Don't go and spoil that beautiful. You've just spent 3 months of your life invested in this one plant. Do not go and hang it outside, please.
No, hang it on your clothes horse inside, guys. No outside.
I mean, if you've got the temperature,
Okay,
it gets 30 plus here.
Yeah,
in,
no.
in this house. So.
Inside. Thank you. No, do not hang
No,
things out.
you want to definitely control it. There's a lot. So what's going on is a lot of
Dark room with a low fan.
You may not think it, but it's still part of the living process of what's going on in your plant when you hang it. Yeah, it's still what's going on. The chlorophyll's getting broken down by microbiology. There's a lot of enzymatic reactions going on for their own benefits within the plant.
Out of the stems as well, so it's juicing up. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, so sorry, I think we got off topic a little bit here, or I digressed a little bit. I'm the same as you, Roo. I chop whole plant because you want to keep it as cool and as slow and low as, well, not low as possible, but as slow as you sort of can without risk of mold.
It's maintaining
air
moisture.
flows, yeah.
Yep.
So where would you be at with your sort of parameters, Roo, if you were trying to dry for that perfect dry and cure?
Me, I like to get it nice. I'm trying to be around the 18 degree Celsius mark, and I'm looking at about 60% roughly humidity. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, cultivar dependent. But yeah, generally around there. And
I'm about the same.
And
I go about 16 though.
Yeah, so 16, 18, yep.
And that's hard. We understand in this country, in these climates, with the cost of electricity, this is not, realistic for a lot of people in summer and whatnot. So as long as you can sort of maintain it's dry, just don't go put it in the sun. UV will degrade your trichomes, direct sun. Airflow, you want a lot of airflow in this space, but you don't want it directly on the plants. Point a fan at the wall or something.
Yeah, you could find if you're in a 2-story house, maybe your under stair space there is nice. Go stick your hydrometer in there and just walk around a few rooms and find something that stays reasonably cool.
And I knew someone that used a spare bathroom. It was climate controlled spare bathroom. So, yeah,
it's perfect.
Yep, that's it exactly. But yeah, generally you can find a space. If you've got that tent free, it can be a good spot because you can climate control there. If you've got access to, say, a little portable air conditioner, you can put that in the space or feed it into that tent to try and help control that temperature as well. Like Mud said, it's not always practical and it's not always possible. But
I'd also like to say, sorry to cut you off there, Roo. Your method of breaking down your plant to hang is also dependent on how you're drying and the climate you're in. The reason I myself use full plant drying is because most of the time it's hot here and I need to maintain that slow dry and I need that humidity and moisture to stay in it. I don't even really strip a lot of those fan leaves off. I like them to cocoon around it and sort of make that little beautiful little, I don't know, climate in there.
Like you say, because you're battling the heat, so you need that moisture. You need that to maintain availability in the plant so it can draw it out as it needs.
So why I'm touching on this is if you're like in the south of Tasmania or something like that, and it's very, 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 very cold, and you can't raise those temperatures, or you're in a cold place and you can't, and you're drying in a shed and you can't, in something in a shed and you can't get those temperatures up. Break it down a little bit more, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Break down to single stems.
Yeah, get those fan leaves off if you want to. That's one of the main ways to sort of, I find, to get that dry a little bit quicker as those fan leaves. But
You
I
get
think you
rid of
lose a bit without that little cocoon around the buds, the flowers, when you remove the fan leaves. But that's personal preference.
but
Yeah, that's
they're your little
volatilization
baby
again,
trees.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. How long would you guys leave them in for? And how would you indicate, what indicators would you pick up on
The
Oh,
when they're
crispiness of
done?
the leaves that are surrounding it is a big factor for me.
yeah, so I'm looking at the stems holding my
Yeah.
densest buds.
So what do
to
you do?
me. And
You
I'm gonna
bend
go.
them,
I'm
or
gonna go give them a little squeeze. If I can get my fingers in between, two really dense nugs right there, give them a bit of a squeeze. And if I can feel that it's soft, it feels like a soft wood, then I'm gonna try and give it a bend. And if I get a bit of a snap, then I'm pretty much ready to start breaking it down and start trimming.
Yeah.
If I'm getting a bend and I can still feel a little bit of like there's no snap, there's no crack, then I'm gonna leave it for another day and come back and check it.
Yeah, you can also feel it a little bit too. Like, they kind of perspire a little bit, the
They
stems,
do,
some of the greener stems, and you can feel it. It'll leave a little bit of a. I mean, you can feel the biology going on in it.
and that all comes with time as well,
Yeah.
and learning to read your plants.
Mm.
I like to another thing I like to do, and I don't recommend it because you shouldn't be. I'd only do this to sort of lowers and whatnot. You shouldn't be doing this to your collars and whatnot. Squeeze them a little bit. I know it sounds silly, but you know what consistency you like. But be aware. Yeah, I go for like it's almost like a styrofoam feel. You squeeze a little bit, but you still got that bit of give, bit of rubberiness. But anyway, you have to
Yeah,
understand they will feel a little bit dry after a dry, and as
yeah, you
dumb
want
as
that
that sounds,
slight crisp on the outside. It
yeah, and
does
it goes
sound,
away.
yep,
It goes
it
away during
does.
the cure. That you
Yep.
want that for the exact reason of the cure. So yeah.
Yeah. And it comes back. You get moist again once you start curing.
Well, the
It's
center of
quite
those
remarkable.
buds, when you trap them up
Yeah.
in somewhere airtight, they're gonna sweat.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
moisture that you didn't know it was there, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you bring, when you do that cure, you're bringing it out into it in a very specific way. It's actually a kind of the dry and the cure is it's a make or break that people don't understand. I didn't understand until much later on. Well, I say much later on, still very new, but until later on, it's what it brings out, everything going on in the plant is very fundamental. So don't skimp on that part, guys. Focus
No.
on your dry and cure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yep, that's why I
Yeah.
was yelling at Tink. I was like, "No, not outside," because I'm like, "No, you've just
I would never do that outside. That's just barbaric.
yeah."
I like
There are
controlling
lots of
environment.
methods. There are lots of methods you can do. One that works well in really hot summer grows and things like that for your summer dries is a fridge dry.
I love
Um,
fridge drying.
yeah, fridge drying is great.
Yeah.
I mean, you
It's
can even break
slow.
things right down to bud, right down to individual flowers, and you can do your rack system if
Well,
if
this
you're
is
so
exactly
inclined.
it.
Yeah, that's what I do for all my outdoors.
Yeah, so you can do that. This is what I do in the fridge. If I can't got nowhere to keep temps under control, and I'll use cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this method.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And you just get the most perfect buds, and they're just perfect. Like it's the nicest way to treat a trichome is what I've found, is the slow fridge drying.
And then
Yeah, and
also you have your crazy method, like your old tie sticks and whatnot were ferment cured, that 9-month ferment cure within the leaves, but that's not something anybody around here will be worrying about.
no, yeah. So the fridge can be like a nice long dry, but it is definitely a great dry because by nature that's just what fridges do. They
Do you just chuck it in there in a
moisture.
cardboard box and that's it?
Yeah,
Could
and
you elaborate a bit
every
on the
couple
method?
of days you can go and turn them or rotate your boxes around, just to make sure that they're getting a bit of airflow. But apart from that, that's all you have to do.
Yep.
You're gonna
How long?
go in there every
Depends on the density of the
14,
buds, I've found.
14
Yeah.
odd to 20 odd days generally
So
is
about
enough.
normal. About normal.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
can sometimes go a little bit longer.
Mm.
And then you go straight into your grove bags or to your jars from there
Any
as well.
specifics, or you just chuck them in there and away she goes?
Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
even
I need to
put them
try
in
that.
In the cardboard in the paper bags, I've found are really good too, but it's just, what I found with those is you can just only have one layer. You don't layer them up, so just one layer, because different to a box you can shake around and just move them and so they're
Well,
not
even the
clumping.
box, I want you. Yeah, I don't want you to stack them. They're single
No,
layers.
no, just
You
single
want
layers of
airflow around those buds. Because
yeah,
Yeah,
just
never
like your
force anything.
lettuces and your cabbage and everything else that you're
yeah,
sticking in your
you don't want
fridge, you
bud
want
on
airflow
bud on
around it.
bud.
So
Yeah,
while we're touching on that storage, I guess when we're done the dry and we're breaking it down into the cure, how are we going to go about the cure? What are we going to put it in? What little tools do we
oat
have? Because we got
bags.
some
Yeah,
good tools these days.
I can keep,
Yeah.
like, buds really decent for 12 to 18 months now that we've got grove bags. It's just changed everything right up.
Yeah, so growth bags are great. Not everyone has access to them, and they are quite expensive.
They do add up. Yep.
Yep.
And they're not
especially when you're looking at your whole harvest. Sorry.
And I'll also I'll say this. I will say this: the as you get into the larger sizes, the QPs and the pounds and things like that, with the Grove bags, their seals, the larger one seals are no good. I have them bust off for me constantly, like constantly.
Do
They're
you
really no
use the
good.
brand
So
bags or
Grove
the
also
name
do a
one?
turkey bag for those that
Yeah.
don't know, which you can just tie the top.
Yeah, I
And
use
so
the branded one. Think like the actual
Okay.
proper turf
I
like
have
Grove
had
one.
it happen a few times, I must admit. I've had a lot that haven't, but I have had that happen.
I'm a bit rough though. My main method is jars. So
Yep.
I'll put them in jars. Now,
Yep.
if I can be bothered spending the money or have them available, I'll use little Bavita packs or
Yep.
they're just little
Humidity pack.
silica packs, little silica packs that absorb they maintain the humidity and perhaps someone can touch a bit closer on what sort of humidity and temperature we're looking for in that cure. But
Two.
these packs make it easy.
Yeah, they do. They really, really do, because they control the humidity in that jar,
Don't
and
forget to
they
burp.
yeah.
Don't forget to burp your things. Like if you're doing it
No,
in a jar,
Yeah, so if you're going
like I
jars,
do,
burping
yeah.
is
yeah,
essential. Yep.
I don't even use Bavita packs very much anymore or any of that. Just daily get it out for what I do for the first week, get it out, open it up 10, 15 minutes in a nice environment, usually my lung room, which I keep nice these days. And then put the lid back on and away it goes. Give it a tussle too. Have a sniff if it's really, really strong. Obviously it's going to smell, but if it starts to get way too strong, you've probably got it in too hot or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and don't
just pay
freak
attention
out
to it.
with that hay smell. You're going to get
Yeah,
that hay smell,
that's the
especially,
chlorophyll.
once you've put it in there from your dry. Yeah, it's not going to smell like it did when you chopped it, and you're probably going to freak out if it's your first. That those aromas, those terpenes, those smells, they will come back.
Yeah, a week, and it's night and
They'll come
day.
back if you do a good
Yeah,
dry and cure. Yeah, you need to make
Good
sure
drying
this is
cure,
where it comes
correct.
back. Yeah, if you
yeah.
don't nail it, you will always have that, and that's sort of what we're getting at about how important it is to get
Mm.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly like you said, Mud. That's your chlorophyll's breaking down is that smell.
Same thing that makes all the other grass and everything we cut smell because they're going through the same process. We just don't intend to smoke hay or lucerne, as far
Yeah.
as I'm aware for you guys. I speak for myself here.
Yeah.
Other herbs if you're that
Yeah, I don't
sort.
know what else. Yeah, what everyone's up to, but look, if that floats your boat, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, that's where you're going to get your aromas, your terpenes, and your flavors are going to start to come back now in your cure.
Mm.
So yeah, burping is a massive one. Like Mud said, every day for at least for the first week, you're going to
Yeah.
want to be getting them out every day, letting
It
that
gets a
air
lot.
flow around it. Yeah, it's a big job, especially if you're doing jars and you're looking at smaller things like mason jars.
Mm.
If you are so inclined, you can go to somewhere like Bunnings, Mitre 10, whatever. You can get yourself a good painter's bucket.
100%. Yep.
They work really well as well if you can also keep that in a nice environment. So you don't
I've
want
heard
it
paper
in
bags
a
too.
30-degree shed.
No.
Brown paper bags. I've heard of people doing it in them as well.
A bit too fast, in my opinion,
Okay.
depending on where you are, because it will dry really quick.
Yeah, well, that's why we
Finish
use
in the fridge.
paper bags
Yeah.
and cardboard in the fridge exactly is
Yeah.
because it
Right,
draws
that's
that
probably what I
moisture
saw.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to try that. I think I will try that.
If you've
Oh,
got
you'll love it.
humidity in your air, then you tend to be able to dry it a bit slower, in my opinion. It can
Yeah,
be
and that's
useful.
where that airflow comes
Yeah,
in. So you
yeah,
have to have airflow if you're drying with humidity.
absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, we're in jars now anyway, or we're in totes
Sorry.
or buckets. No, you're right, Tink.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're burping every day, probably for the first week.
Yeah.
Minimum,
Then
yep.
you can start to slow it down a bit, and you can go every 2 days or every 3 days.
And then you'll just forget, and then at that point it should be fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because by that time you're at your 2 or 3 days, and you're cracking that lid, and you're going, oh, that smells really good now.
Yeah. And then they get burped when you go and take a bud and enjoy it.
And I'd like
Yeah.
to clarify to everybody, right up after the dry's done, right from when the dry's done, you can enjoy it yourself. It's just that you can test it. It just won't be what you
No.
expect from a finished flower of the past. You'll get a better result otherwise. So other people might not be happy with it, but if you really want to try it a little early on, there's nothing stopping you after the dry. It just
Of
won't be as
course, you're
good.
going to try it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
you're gonna
Baz
try
just mentioned that in the
Yeah, tester,
chat here,
exactly.
you grab a nug each time you open it for a tester.
And you get educated, because then you understand the difference between it when I've just like dried it versus
true.
when I've cured it, and then I've smoked it after that. You'll actually understand why you're doing these processes.
And
So
another
I
option
recommend
too,
you smoke
sorry.
a bit straight off the plant. Yeah.
Yeah. But another option with your dry too is you can, use a moisture meter if you really want to.
Mm.
Yeah, they're cheap. You get
And
cheap
set
ones
it
in
to
the clearance store.
softwood, and you're looking at about 12% roughly.
Right.
You hit about that 12% moisture mark, and then you're about dry, ready for cure as well.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And then you have your really expensive things that we won't cover very much because that's not what this episode's about. But there's companies that put out basically glorified wine fridges that'll help you cure things.
Also, touching on that, if you're going to try a fridge curing method, please don't use a wine fridge. That is just a sealed box with a fan. It's not a cooler. It's not going to dehumidify. It's not going to suck
No.
moisture out. You're
That's
just going to end up with mold. So that's make sure I touch on that one.
Yeah, they need to be kept at a lower temperature, cooled. Yeah.
You definitely want to keep frosts away, though, as Baz just touched on. Yeah, humid. So the problem with that I've heard about with fridges is that humidity. You want to make sure you.
Well, frost free, yeah. But fridges, don't go in a freezer unless you're looking at storing for washing or
other processes. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, fridge method. Then into cure as well. You've got your hanging dry. Like Mud said, if you need to break things down a little bit more, do that as well while you're drying.
In the fridge, if I possibly can, I will head to the crisper. If I can fit everything in there.
I like to take the shelves out if I can. If it's if you've got your beer fridge in the garage or something, dedicate the bottom couple of shelves to drying. Is always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coverage.
I think that about covers us from there. And once you're at your cure stage, and the longer you want to leave it, the more aromas and the more terpenes and the different flavors and stuff you're going to experience.
And you'll find with so many cultivars, they just seem to get better and better the more they cure. So I do highly recommend it. Process, taking it seriously. It's worth the investment.
Yep.
And you'll undo all your other hard work if you don't. Honestly, you really will.
You really will.
Make or break.
Yeah.
It is make or break. And that's where, something like a growth bag can come in really handy. If you have the willpower to do so, once you've got to that crispy point where you're, a little bit soft and squishy on the inside, crispy on the outside, you've trimmed them up, you're going to put them in jars if you want to. Grove bags, if you have the self-control heat seal them and put them away.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
they don't need to be opened, they don't need to be burped, you can leave them away for 3 months until your next harvest is ready,
Yeah.
and then you can open them up and they will be amazing.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
But trust
Take a
the
little-
process of a growth bag.
Yeah.
If you are to use them, you don't have to open them every day.
Yeah.
Sort of defeats the purpose. Because that's the whole point, is you're trying to trap in those terpenes. That's why they're called terp lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're night and day for me. I think they're the best investment ever.
I like my jars.
Yep, and everyone will find what works for them, definitely.
Jars are
Yeah.
expensive though. I don't recommend jars.
And they can be a space challenge as well. I found with the grove bags, it was really, it can be space conscious. You can really get a lot and pop them away in a safe space, whereas jars, they take up a lot of room. Because I have a lot of herbs in jars as well, so I love jars, but yeah. And
Yeah,
I
well,
think people can get a little bit, like, a bit conscious if they've got jars out everywhere.
I'm more conscious of the 10 by 10 grow tent. I think, Tink, I'll be all right.
That's true too.
Yeah, well, you want those jars out of the light, so they shouldn't be just
Yeah.
sitting on your bench. Yeah,
No, my jars,
No.
all
they
of
should
mine,
be in your cupboard. Yeah,
they go in a, mine go in a, what's it called, aluminium filing cabinet or some sort of
Oh,
tin.
yeah? Yeah, cool.
And it's inside of a room. It's inside of my lung room that keeps it very, very cool outside.
Oh,
of
it'd be
Yeah,
nice and
that's
cool,
nice,
yeah.
away from
Yeah.
light. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
away
Yeah,
from
so-
everything, hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so someone touched on can we reuse our growth bags, and can we reuse those things? Yes, you can.
I do. I
Yeah,
don't even wipe them out.
absolutely.
I'm guilty, but the
Oh, look, I'm a big believer in wiping them out, because I want
The fresh
you
terp.
will, yeah, I want
Yeah.
those fresh terp smells, and I want to be able to distinguish the difference.
And mine end up covered, because we've got some really good strains we're using. So, yeah, I definitely think they need a wipe out.
I'd recommend wiping them out. I don't,
Yeah.
but then I don't use the terp bags I have. As I said, all the seals are broken on them, so I just use them for my own sort of stuff. That's not stuff
Yeah.
that isn't up to standard for that I think is safe enough for other people. or
Which
good
is
enough
why I
for other
recommend
people.
heat sealing them too.
Yeah, I
Because
do
then you're not
recommend
popping those seals all the time.
Well, I
don't-
burp them, see, because I've heard different from the actual people that made the bag I use. They actually say that it isn't for the cure itself. You still burp not as frequently, and the seal's merely for long-term storage and shelf life. That's
So
what
which
I've heard.
bags are you using?
Terp, grove bags, terp lock. I can go have a quick look at the actual name of
No,
them.
that's what they're called. They're
Yeah,
called
that's
grey
exactly
bags.
what they're called. But that's funny, because the whole premise behind them is that they are a curing bag.
I do.
Well, the premise is
I
they are
burp
supposed
mine.
to hold the
Yeah.
cure, is from what I've heard on videos. I've never spoken to the person directly myself, but the reason they seal it is like shelf life. You get a cure and whatnot, but they're also talking. You have to understand, they're not
Well,
talking
they
our style of
maintain
cure.
they
They're
maintain
not talking
relative
how we do
humidity. They
things.
maintain that's
They're talking like a facility where you've got your quick dry, you got your quick cure, and then they're into the bag. So I guess it's kind of different, but to my understanding, I still burp
but that's
them
where
not
the
as frequently.
facilities are using totes with those turkey bags of the grove style. They're not using Ziplocs. They're not using that. Not a chance.
I think for me, it's more experience in understanding when it's at that perfect dry for cure. And I'm still learning that. I'll probably still be learning that till the day I die. So sometimes I get it spot on and I go to burp it or look it or check it, and I think I didn't need to open that bag at all. And then other times
Dry and
I've
cure is
popped it
cultivar
in.
dependent too.
Sorry?
Dry and cure is definitely cultivar dependent too. So, like you're saying,
Absolutely.
sometimes you got
Spicy
it
nuts,
spot on, and other times you don't.
yeah. There's so much involved in it, so I can understand the opening it, because I do that with mine for the first month. I am always opening it because some just clump up and they need moving around and yeah, still learning. So yeah, I'm not confident enough to know that it's perfect for me to seal it up. After a month, I would be, but yeah, not straight away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying I'm correct, and I've also heard a lot of contradicting
agree,
things
yeah.
from a lot of
Yeah.
different people, and even from the people themselves. But I think just on principle, I like to burp things anyway.
Yeah,
It's just the way
I
I
like
do
to
things.
check. I'm not.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I'm going from my personal experience,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's all we can
I've
do.
gone from jars. I've done fridges and all the rest of it. I've done everything, and I have found that my best results were curing with a heat sealed growth bag.
Yeah.
So the heat seal as well, you find helps better as well.
Yep.
Which
I
is
need to try this. Yeah.
Well, this is
Not
also
making
it's stopping your temptation of opening the bag.
yeah.
You don't need to open the bag. The bag regulates its humidity.
Yeah.
So all you're doing is releasing volatile terpenes and sulfurs and things like that you don't want to release. You want them to stay in there as long as you can, in my opinion. So to me, I've found my best drying cures have always come from a heat seal growth bag.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's interesting.
So that is a bit of a plug for Grove themselves. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
I love the bags, so I'd plug them too without needing to. Yeah.
And I have gone through the process of burping them and things like that, and I've just found it was a complete waste of time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll do a side by side. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of irrelevant because I like my jars. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
You got to find what floats your boat. Seriously, I think that's the whole part of the whole thing is, doing the way you love doing it.
Yeah, maybe the jars just feels a bit more hands-on and a bit more...
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like crafty bullshit,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in fucking yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
It feels a bit more boutique to you, mate.
Yeah, I think that's the word. A little bit fancy, mate. It's about all I'm fancy at, so I should make the most of it.
Yeah, that's fair. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I know that feeling all too well. Yeah, well, great chat, guys. I think we pretty much nailed that one for everyone listening, and I think so. $500 should see you go seed to harvest and have some really, really nice,
Then you got questions,
beautiful
like
homegrown cannabis.
links, sources, place to get these, because some of this stuff, some of this green related stuff's a bit. It's not hard to find, but it's not in plain sight like your bloody tomato growing stuff and things like that. So yeah, if you need help finding things, cheap things and substitutes and things like that, alternatives, head on to the Discord so we can help you out.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we got someone else in the comments here mentioning a cheap grow challenge. So maybe that's something we'll look at as well.
Oh God, I'll do it for free.
Yeah. Well, I think we should try and get a couple of people on board here and try and do, a starting budget and see who can do what and how we all end up. I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, cool. I like it. What we'll do is in the terpene table channels here somewhere, I will build a little area where we can start dropping some of these links of all these cheaper products and where you can find them and source them and things like that. So you guys yourselves can have access and do a nice under $500 grow.
Sounds great.
Has anyone else got anything they want to wrap it up with?
I think we did pretty good this time. So anyone else?
No, I think I'll just leave with start small and learn as you grow, and just don't be afraid to fuck up because that's how we all learned. So,
and don't use Bunnings cocoa. If you're going to grow cocoa, you'll have to do some processes that aren't worth doing.
No,
the one thing I will say,
don't even bother. Just go down to your hydro shop. Pay $30 for 55 liters of it, perfectly buffered, ready to go.
Yeah, that's the one thing I will say that you do want to fork out for is the cocoa. The first, I'll leave by saying the first run, one of the first runs I ever did was an outdoor run. I tried to use Bunnings cocoa and I couldn't figure out why nothing worked. And it was the first ever plant I culled, and I was very sad.
It was the bugs,
Yeah. Don't buy salty cocoa. Just yeah.
Well, it's the cation exchange in it and everything like that. It's not pre-washed. It's not pre-buffered. It'll suck all the nutrients out of everything and cause a lot of.
So they're your keywords.
And
That's exactly what you want to see written on the bag: pre-washed, pre-buffered.
Yeah, right.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So
if you don't
Canna's a
see
good
that,
brand.
look for another one. Yeah, Canna, Kiss, and
Not blocks.
Professor's Own.
Don't try to avoid dehydrated bricks like the old days of other hobbies. Try and get sort of your loose stuff. That's already pre-made up.
Yeah, pre-bagged. Most of us are looking for a 70-30 mix anyway, if we're going cocoa.
Yeah.
So yeah, pre-bag's your way to go. It works out way more efficient. You're looking at a lot better product. Generally, it's a better refined cocoa as well.
It may not seem it. It's important that it's the cocoa. It's one of those things. It doesn't seem like there's a big difference, but there actually is a very big difference in the cocos. The quality of cocos, not the actual material
Yeah.
itself.
You start getting into like your cation exchanges and things like
And
that.
that is so fundamental.
So yeah, exactly. Just lock it all down with just pre-buffered, pre-washed.
Yeah.
Probably cheaper anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's about covers it. So yeah, guys, if you need anything, you want to have a chat, you want to ask us any questions, the community Discord is where to find us. The WRC community Discord will have links in all the podcasts on the YouTube, things like that. You'll also find the wildvault.xyz and wildrootcultivars.com for some of your other goodies. And also you can check out theblazingtrail.com. .au, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Timmy.
That is correct.
Yeah, jump over there and you'll see what Timmy's doing with all his germination stuff, and he's got some good blogs and things like that going on over there as well. So, yes, thank you, crew, for tonight. It was really good chat.
Thanks, chat, as well. Thanks everyone that showed up to talk to us live. I love seeing you here. I love interacting.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, we love a bit of interaction. We love being able to pull out comments and things like that, and talk live with everyone.
And
it's
you guys
great.
have good points. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Well,
Bless
this
you.
was the Terpene Table, so thank you all, and we'll see you again next week.
Peace.
This episode of the Terpene Table is brought to you by Growers Pal. Aussie legends when it comes to keeping your clones safe in transit. If you've ever tried to post a cutting wrapped in wet paper towel and cling wrap, you'll know it's a gamble at best. Growers Pal clone shippers take the guesswork out of it. Purpose built with segmented compartments to keep your genetics snug, and even a little LED light to keep them happy on the road. Whether they're headed up the coast or across the country, you can trust your prize cuts will land fresh, not fried. They're mates of the Roo and they're mates of the Discord, so you know their growers looking out for you, not just trying to sell you something. Head over to growerspower.com.au. That's www.growerspal.com.au and sort yourself out with a proper kit for moving your genetics across the country, because good clones deserve a fair dinkum safe ride.
At Blazing Trail, we're on a joyful adventure celebrating life, love, and nature's beauty. We cultivate vibrant outdoor connections, foster community collaborations, and source wholesome treasures like our Sprout seed starter for precise, energy-efficient germination, and FlexiGerm silicon seed pods for sustainable, airflow-enhanced sprouting. All with the care for our world. Join us in blazing a sustainable trail filled with laughter and magic. Visit blazingtrail.com.au.
While we're on the subject of good gear, I'm going to give a cheeky shout out to my own spot, the Wild Vault. It's packed with glass, gadgets, and grow gear, all the little treasures that make your sesh just that bit sweeter. So, if you're looking for something fresh to add to your kit, swing by the wildvault.xyz and have a sticky beak. It's basically a toy box for grown-up stoners. And hey, if it's genetics you're chasing, head over to our mates at wildrootcultivars.com and check out what they've got cooking.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time at the Terpene Table.
Give me